Hi, everyone. I just wanted to let you know the meeting will start, in a few minutes. Council is in closed session at the moment, and it appears that they're running a little over, so we do appreciate your patience. If you want to speak on an agenda item, please fill out a pink speaker slip. If you want to speak on an item that is not listed on the agenda, please fill out a white speaker slip.
All right, well, hello, everybody. It's nice to see a full house today. Sorry for the little bit of delay. We were finishing up our closed session. You might notice we're wearing our Hawaiian shirts up here because it's that time of year where we all wear our Hawaiian shirts on one day. And I see some people, city staff, all in the back who are also wearing their Hawaiian shirts. Thank you for participating in the fun. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this meeting. It's nice to see all of you here. It is the regular meeting of the Encinitas City Council. It is 6:12 on Wednesday, August 10, 2022. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Hinsey is absent. Councilmember Kranz?
Here.
Councilmember Lyons?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mosca?
Here.
And Mayor Blakespear.
Here.
Record will show all members of the City Council are present with the exception of Councilmember Hinsey.
Okay, and we'll just make the announcement that Councilmember Hinsey had her baby, and so she's healthy and well, and the baby is healthy and well, a little girl. They named her Lakey Shea, and then Sanderpour is the last name of her husband. So we're excited and wish them a big congratulations on the new addition to their family. So she'll be coming back to council meetings in October. So with that, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I invite you to join me. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, should we make the announcement, City Clerk, about the last agenda item being pulled? Would you like to?
Just for the record, item 10E has been removed from the agenda and will not be considered this evening.
So that item is for the city to consider participation in the AB 1713 Stop as Yield pilot program. And so that's a bill by Assemblymember Tasha Burner Horvath. And the bill is not finalized in terms of what is in it. So the city's participation is not clear yet. So we're pulling it to have that be determined before we make any decisions about that. So now we'll move forward with the things on our agenda. So the first one is 4A. So this is presentation of the Senior Awards Program, Senior Citizen of the Year, and the Lifetime Achievement Award. Now we have some, I think that's for the seniors, right? Are those the senior awards right there that are sitting there? Yes. Okay, so we will invite up Mary Ann Jones and Edgar Engert. Or actually, he's passed. I apologize. Edgar has passed. But we do have Mary Ann Jones here. Oh, we do? Oh, great. Okay, thank you so much for coming. That's great. Okay, we have his wife and his son. Two sons. Okay, great. Well, any members of the family who are affiliated with these award winners should feel free to come up.
Oh, wow.
Okay, this is great. I'm so glad there's so many of you. Thank you for coming. And thank you for coming. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing here. So the City of Encinitas Senior Citizen Commission, in partnership with the Encinitas Rotary Club, is pleased to recognize the award recipients for the 2021 Senior Citizen of the Year Award and Lifetime Achievement Award. This awards program began in 2014 and is designed to identify and celebrate people who have selflessly contributed to the City of Encinitas as a senior citizen role model. So I'm pleased to announce that Mary Ann Jones has been selected for the Senior Citizen of the Year Award, and Edgar Engert has been selected for the Lifetime Achievement Award. So Mary Ann Jones is an active member of the San Diego Methodist Church, where she participates in service projects, coordinating food drives for Feeding San Diego and Rise Against Hunger, volunteers to tutor children, is a court-appointed special advocate for children, volunteers to sing at health care centers, and organizes beach cleanups. Isn't that a lot of things? We should recognize that with a big round of applause. Additionally, Mary Ann represented Encinitas on mission trips to Guatemala to build brick stoves, to Nicaragua to help with a school, and to Puerto Rico to help with rebuilding after an earthquake. Mary Ann is selfless and always looking for ways to serve. So let's give her another round of applause. Would you like to stay?
I thank the city of Encinitas here and for this award. And I've lived here for 49 years, and I really love this community. And so it's special to receive the award. And I would also like to thank the city for having this award, because I think it's going to encourage people to volunteer. And so with that, I'm looking out here at people in my community, and I hope there are many of you out here who do volunteer and have found a place in the community to do this. And those of you who have not, I encourage you, look around. There's so many places that can use your help. And so in saying that, I'd just like to give a shout out to a couple of the places that didn't get mentioned here that are in Encinitas, and one would be the Community Resource Center. And I've been working with them for 20 plus years, and they really got me going volunteering. And then the San Alejo Lagoon, I worked there right after I retired. And Paul Ecke School is near and dear to my heart too. And and finally, what I would like to say is I've worked with so many dedicated people, great volunteers, and so I feel I'm here representing them as well as myself. So I thank you.
Thank you so much. Here you go. And we'll invite the council for a photo with everybody after I say a few words over here too, but thank you. Let me give you a handshake here. And I also want to recognize her husband and son who've come, right, to support her. Yes, thank you. No, you should stay here. Stay here, yes, because we're going to have a photo with everybody. Okay, so hello. I've seen some of you at the Oktoberfest. Yes. Okay, so Edgar Engert, or as many affectionately called him, Mr. Encinitas, was a charming, cheerful man who dedicated his life to our community. That is very true. He was very charming and cheerful. Since moving to Encinitas in 1968, he was a community philanthropist serving on the board of directors for the YMCA for 40 years and the San Diego Botanic Gardens board of directors for 10 years. He also held leadership positions with the San Diego Heritage Museum, Encinitas Rotary Club, and the North Coast Chamber of Commerce. He built community connection by establishing the beloved Holiday Parade and Oktoberfest. Engert orchestrated the hanging flower baskets along Coast Highway 101 to acknowledge Encinitas as the flower capital of the world. Oh, I didn't know that. That's great. Sadly, Engert passed away in January of 2021, and he is deeply missed by our community. So I'd like to invite you to say a few words if you would like to, or any of you would like to.
Sure, I'll say just a little bit. When my father and our family moved here back in 1968, he really fell in love with the community. And the first thing he did was really put himself out there and just helped with so many different things, with the starting of the YMCA. He was very big with the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other things. He loved the Oktoberfest. But in around 2000, I believe they moved to Lake San Marcos, and he was still really involved with the city. In fact, I remember at one time he had some people from the city come up to him and say, "Edgar, I think you should run for mayor." And he had told them, "But I don't live in Encinitas anymore." And they said, "Well, that really doesn't matter. You know, we'll figure it out." So I know he would have loved this award. So I want to thank you for that.
I just want to say a quick word. My father's been gone a year and a half, and he is still receiving awards. And this just goes to show how much the community meant to him. And North County, Encinitas, yeah. So anyways, we thank you for this award. We'll take it in honor of him. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would add that they are the biggest. They have the biggest family representation here, but the oldest daughter, Liana, is not here. I believe she's in Atlanta or in Georgia. So she was my sister's good friend in high school and first college roommate. So I want to give her a shout out too. Her father was quite the leader in this community.
All right, well, come on down and we'll take a photo with all of us together. Congratulations, yes. Is everybody together? Here, do you want us? Here, scoot this way. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. That was fun. I always love honoring people in the city. It's so great. Okay, our next presentation is by Angela Kemsley and Kaya Wilson with Wild Coast regarding the Marine Protected Area Compliance Update. So we'll invite you to come up here and give your presentation.
And most recruit Marianne, so I'm actually sad that she had to leave. She'd be a great addition to our Mpa Collaborative. But I'll turn it over to Angela to get us started.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Angela Kemsley. I'm the Conservation Director at Wild Coast. We're a nonprofit organization that conserves coastal and marine ecosystems and addresses climate change through natural solutions. We are international. You can go to the next slide, please. We have offices here in San Diego as well as down in Baja California. And here in California, we work in marine protected areas. We do blue carbon restoration, and we also have a marine debris program. But here in Encinitas, you have one of our marine protected areas, Swami's State Marine Conservation Area, one of 11 marine protected areas here in San Diego County. You go to the next slide. They're beautiful places that protect really important ecosystems, but poaching is still fairly common in these areas. And so one of the things that Wild Coast does is we use innovative technology, including radar dishes. So we have a marine monitor radar dish installed on the lifeguard tower at Moonlight. We have another one down in La Jolla on the Scripps Pier, and we're installing a third one down in South La Jolla. But it's actually been rather successful. If you've heard about the Electra case that happened right here at Swami's, there was one of those party boats, the commercial passenger fishing vessel that got caught poaching in Swami's, and they were actually successfully convicted in part using the radar data that we were able to submit. It's able to back up what the wardens saw. Next slide. So you can see our radar on the Scripps Pier here on the left, and so one as well on the right. Next slide. And we can track it in real time, vessel activity in the marine protected areas in real time, as well as pulling up historic tracks, and the computer can give us an idea of potential poaching behavior, and then we can supply that to wardens, the city. You should have received on your desk, hopefully, the radar report that we make, as well as an article that was just published about it for you to get more information. Next slide. That's a brief overview for me, and then we partner with the Mpa Collaborative Network to do some other enforcement work.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. And so the Mpa Collaborative Network pretty much brings together all the local area experts. So that is city, county, state, federal agency, and elected officials, with nonprofits, with fishing organizations and tribes and ocean businesses and academics and scientists and educators and community members. We bring everybody that really has an expertise and knows the coast the best. And we do localized comprehensive management of MPAs. We have 1,400 members now. San Diego is by far the biggest collaborative. I think we have 130 members, 65 organizations. Next slide. And huge leadership from the City of Encinitas. We've had two of our co-chairs actually be staff from City of Encinitas. Marine Safety Department has been a huge participant, giving us updates, making contacts. We have this actual guide for officers. Sheriffs can be included in this. We have enforcement trainings. We do DA outreach and lots of materials. I saw you guys looking at this. This is all produced by the Mpa Collaborative, along with Wild Coast, who's the additional co-chair. Next slide. And I really just want to say thank you for your participation and leadership. It's been incredible. You've really made an impact. You've been an important member of the collaborative, and we really hope to see that continued into the future. And let us know if there's anything we can help you with. If you're any type of partnering on outreach projects, any type of compliance projects with the coast and ocean, we're really here to help. It takes partnership and teamwork. So really appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Could I ask a question or two?
Yeah.
So when you find boats that are potentially poaching, are they big commercial fishing boats, or is this a little dinghy?
It can be both.
But I mean, what is it that that you are finding? I know it can be anything, but what is it that you are finding?
We've seen, if you want to jump in, the case with the Electra was a commercial passenger fishing vessel, but there have been recreational boats that have been observed as well. And I don't know if you want to speak more.
Yeah, quite often when we do find boats that are poaching, it's unknowingly. There is a lot of, just regular people who are out there who don't even realize that the marine protected areas exist. So part of what we do is working with the Mpa Collaborative Network to produce all these materials. We send people out to the beach to talk to people. We go out on boats to monitor the marine protected areas. And so we'll go up and talk to these people, and quite often they don't know they're in a protected area, so we give them the information, and usually they're very grateful. Occasionally, though, we do get the party boats like the Electra, and those are the ones they know better, and they also have a lot more people, and so they're having a much larger impact, a much more negative impact on the marine protected areas.
And so how is a boat to know if it is in or out of the marine protected area when it's on the water?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is a CDFW mobile app that they've produced, the department has produced, where they can see, and then there's also something called Fish Legal, where actually it shows their location in relation to the marine protected areas. Most boats also have some type of navigation system, and you can download, they can actually have the MPA layers on that navigation system. So most fishers, just need to look at that to be aware of where they are in relation to the MPAs. But just in case, we also go to harbors and marinas. There's signs at most launch ramps that say where the marine protected areas are, and we try to do as much outreach as possible to fishers.
Okay.
Yeah, and overall, it works, as we found that most of the commercial fishers are in compliance, and most of them are doing a great job, as there's just a few of the bad actors out there that are stealing from everyone.
Well, thank you for your work. I'm going to call on my colleague, but I want to say thank you for what you're doing, because it's really important. And I did see that news article that you posted, and I remember when that came out thinking, this is great that we're having enforcement of this. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I want to thank you too for being here today and just the partnership that you have with the City of Encinitas. It clearly is beneficial to our residents here, our visitors here. So thank you so much. I do want to raise a concern, something that I've been kind of discouraged to hear about, which is the quality of the water in the southern portion of our county. Regardless of whether it's our beaches here in Encinitas, the beaches around the county are critically important to all of us as San Diegans, and just wanted to know, I know it's not completely on target for you, but I personally and my family are completely discouraged to hear about the quality of the water in the southern portion of the county and hear the beaches are closed down. What is it that we can do, and what can you do in collaboration with other organizations to ensure that we have better quality in some of those beaches on the southern portion of the county?
That's all you.
Yeah, so our offices are actually located in Imperial Beach, and so this is very near and dear to my heart because I smell this when I go to the office. One of the things that we're doing is Wild Coast has actually installed a trash boom in Los Laureles, just on the Mexican side of the border, and we installed it in January of 2021, and since then we've collected over 100,000 pounds of plastic from the trash boom. We actually collected so many tires out of it, we built a park for the kids, complete with a swing set and a soccer field. But the trash boom can't stop the bacteria and any of the chemicals that are in there, and that's a much larger issue. That's old infrastructure in Mexico, but the city of Imperial Beach, several of the other cities here, Wild Coast, other nonprofits are trying to work with both the Mexican government and our government here to see if there's some kind of solution. There's very old infrastructure in Mexico, and so that's a little bit trickier in terms of what we can do, but we're gonna keep trying.
Question?
Yes, Councilmember Lyons is next, though. Hold on.
All right, thank you. I love this topic, so thanks for coming. What research and monitoring are you doing that's more specific to right off our coast right here? Is there anything briefly you can capture for us there?
Me than you? One of the research projects that we're doing is called Marine Protected Area Watch. It's actually a community science program where we train local community members to go out to the beach and collect human use data. So we're basically counting people and recording what they're doing. And we use that to create a snapshot of how people are using the coast. It can help to inform educational opportunities. And we also supply that information to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, to lifeguards, to anybody who is out on the beach patrolling, especially the enforcement officials, because as I'm sure you know, there's just not enough of them. And so we're able to give them a snapshot of where we're seeing certain activities, including potential poaching. So hopefully they can direct their patrols that way. So that's one of the projects that we're doing.
Another one that would be great to get the city participation on is something we call Snapshot Cal Coast. And that's where we have people from the community, they go out into the tide pools, intertidal zone. They have an app called iNaturalist that's on their phones. They take a picture of all the different animals they see in the tide pools. That goes uploaded to iNaturalist, and we get a snapshot across the entire state of the distribution of different species and the abundance of species. So that's a really fun community and citizen science project that we can all be involved in, especially with swamis, because there have been some intertidal impacts. So it's a great opportunity to get out there, take a picture of what's there, and maybe do some outreach where we don't take anything from these tide pools, which is also important for that particular habitat.
Good to know. Thank you.
Councilmember Kranz.
I've heard it said that the success of the MPAs and the proliferation of shark prey has increased the number of sharks. Is there any truth to that? Is there any science that would verify that fact?
You know, somebody who'd be great to have speak is Chris Lowe with Long Beach State. He's kind of the shark expert. There is no evidence to support that currently. I think it's what we're seeing a lot is with drones especially, we're able to see the sharks more than we ever have. I think they were there, and there has been a little bit of distribution of their pattern due to warming oceans, where some of the juvenile sharks are staying around a little bit longer and just some of their patterns are affected. But it really is not significant, you know, something that reports. But they keep doing research and they're watching it and studying it aggressively, because I'm sure it's, you know, we all want we want to protect all the natural resources, but we're also a part of the ocean community. We want to feel safe there as
I
well.
wanted to give you the opportunity to dispel the myths, so thank you for doing that. We do know Chris because, you know, he comes and does, I don't know him personally, and I forgot what his last name is, but we've had some attacks here in this area and sightings, and so it does, you know, I guess it comes with the ocean, doesn't it?
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time and the information. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So next we have up to 30 minutes of oral communication. How many public speakers do we have?
There, we do have 6. I will call them 3 at a time. And just a reminder, you do have 3 minutes to address the city council on items that are not listed on the agenda. First 3 speakers, Mark DeVille, Peggy Walker, and then Scott Campbell.
Guess I can address you and them at the same time, right? I have been transitioning into the area from Scripps for the last 6-7 months, and I like to bike, and I like you know, exercise and all that fun stuff, and I love this belt. I'll be honest and transparent. I am 15 years sober in the program, and this is very attractive for me because the belt of sobriety here is strong. So you can be assured that, you know, those things are being watched, and I can recognize things that a lot of people can't in conjunction with the sheriff. And there's been some issues with the fentanyl coming in. They did get a drug bust here, major, about a week and a half ago. Hopefully that vein is going to stop, maybe slow it down. We have other issues I don't want to, a little sensitive for me to even talk about, but I think you can get what I'm referring to. And my suggestion to the council at this point would be a mandatory curfew that would be put in place 10:30. You know, you can have a couple of the uniformed officers, sheriff, go down the sidewalk, close it down, or a fine, kids go home. And it's gotten to the point where about 3-4 Saturdays ago, it was like Mardi Gras out there. I've never seen it so bad. I don't even know why I was out there. Unfortunately, I was, to observe the cars running into each other and things just out of control. You could see the dealers. You could see some other things going on. And 13-year-old kids, underage, throwing up in trash cans and whatnot. And I know it's something that is maybe hard to comprehend. I'm not a watchdog. I'm not vigilante. I'm just bringing my business in. I've got a 32-year-old daughter that I would like to have come in, and it's, you know, kind of in conjunction with the homeless that are used as mules to do the dirty work, and that is necessary to run that. And there are things that I've made the sheriff aware of. And there's other issues that kind of parlay into that. And it's gotten under control. The last 3, good news here. Saturday and Sundays, it's been quiet. I mean, it's been like a Monday night. And I was told that they've got a handle on it. Maybe a mandate went out. But it just all of a sudden, consistently over the last 3 weekends, has definitely slowed down. Whatever happened, maybe it was the bust, I don't know, but I still think to couple that and have a wraparound on it, maybe consider a mandate, maybe liquor sales can be limited, maybe altogether like they do in the Midwest, completely nothing on Sunday, which will upset some people, but we need to watch out for the kids, the families. They can be adversely affected by this. There's a plethora of things I threw on there. This is my first deal here, so, and I just hit the 3 minutes, so.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, aloha. I appreciate your shirts. And thank you for your comments, Deputy Mayor, earlier on beach quality. When I heard that the Environment Commission had voted to draft an ordinance that would limit tobacco use in public places, I wanted to come tonight and urge you to agendize that item when it comes to council. It's very important, and it's something many cities are doing for public health, for the environment, for ocean conservancy, and to stem the costs of hazardous tobacco waste. Having worked in tobacco use prevention 20 years, I'm well versed in tobacco's harms, so I support this from a public health perspective, but especially from an ocean conservancy perspective. Working with friends in conservation groups, it surprised me to learn that people do not realize that cigarette butts are not cotton, but are made of cellulose acetate, which is a microplastic. So when you toss them, you're tossing microplastics onto the beach and into the ocean. These butts are found in 98% of cigarettes, and they are non-biodegradable. They are the leading polluter of the ocean, and you may recall some statistics mentioned a few weeks back that 4.5 trillion cigarette butts are collected from international oceans every year, and butt disposal represents about 1.7 billion pounds in waste yearly. So I came to this council several weeks ago asking support of AB 1690, which would have banned cigarette butts. Unfortunately, that has been sent to the inactive file. But this proposal from the Environment Commission, if you choose to take it and agendize it, it would serve the same purpose, supporting a smoke and tobacco-free, litter-free environment. It would reduce hazardous waste costs, produce a pristine ocean, and improve public health. We know that filters do not prevent lung damage or lung cancer, though promoted for that purpose. Tobacco and tobacco smoke has about 250 harmful chemicals, including arsenic, nicotine, lead, and these concentrate in the butts. 69 of them are known to cause cancer. And one more thing, because fish nibble on those little butts in the ocean, that microplastic has gone into the food chain consumed by humans. And now with the fish and other microplastics in the ocean, it's estimated that you, me, the average person, consumes about microplastics equivalent to about the size of this credit card in a week. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Scott Campbell, followed by Dolores Welty, Becky Rapp, and then Mike Johnson.
Hello, my name is Scott Campbell. I live in the Acadia District. First of all, congratulations to Council Member Shea Hinsey on her baby. That is fantastic. Congratulations to the mayor for advancing to the finals of the elections. That's tremendous. And I really enjoyed our time off. I hope you guys all did too. More small talk. Yeah, it's really hot outside. The air conditioning is really good in here. It is. The airflow is really nice in here. Does my shirt qualify? You need to put this on the website. I got better shirts. I really do. And I really like your decision on Tenny. I actually had a presentation. I'm glad I didn't have to show it. Thank you. Next slide, please. It's not going to get us fun now, but it's not going to be bad. Today's a good day. I'm in a good mood. Last week at the Planning Commission meeting, the precedent was set. The effects on surrounding community do matter. Level of service does matter. And those are prime considerations. There's a big, long newspaper article on this. And so this map shows the Mpa development and other ones, and some other ones that I know are not on the dock yet, or maybe not, but they're going to be. They're big greenhouses. There's only one where they're going to go in. And I call this development encirclement. And that's using terminology from the Traffic and Safety Commission. Next slide, please. As council members, you really have a duty to provide for the community. There's only 5 more of these meetings until the election. And there's going to be at least 2, if not 4 changes. Why the rush? So this is battle zone 0 here. We need the traffic circle at La Costa before anything goes in. Today, I went down and I took pictures at the Vulcan. It's dangerous. It's not even safe for a car. There's already been admitted there's no room for pedestrian access at the bridge. I'm sorry, but the city actually needs to probably buy out those 2 houses right there. And the bottom red line shows where we do need a pedestrian bridge really badly. Next slide, please. Here's the ditch. There's a 4-foot ditch. It's 1 foot of road. There's cars. Look how close that car is practically in the ditch. And then it goes 5 feet the other side. What are we going to do? And it's dirty and nasty. It's North Acadia, I get it. But come on, Maria Village, this is high ditch. Next slide, please. Okay, here's the money slide. In the traffic safety thing, that was a great document. There's 100 pages. I hope everybody read it, all the pages. I did. There's a summary of the impacts at Leucadia and the Costa Boulevard in particular, and they outweigh all the other intersections. This is a priority thing, and I urge the City Council to delay the Mpa development until these items are settled. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Scott.
Sorry, I was too fascinated by his testimony. I'm Dolores Welty from Leucadia, and I'm bringing this to your attention. It doesn't look like anything here, but I love a good reporter. And this is by Mark Wallstrom in the OB Rag, Ocean Beach paper. It's an August 9th article concerning regional housing needs allocation, which you call RHNA, R-H-N-A. Total RHNA, we're supposed to build 15,000 units a year in San Diego, and the usual, what we build is 5,000 plus change. Nobody thinks 15,000 is logical. It's a fantasy, according to this author. Total renal counts are divided into those four categories as very low, low, median, and market rate. And the very low are supposedly 50 to 70% of the AMI, which is the area median income. And the area median income for San Diego is $106,900. It is not allocated by region. For example, in Carmel Valley, they have an actual AMI of $145,100, and San Ysidro has the AMI of $45,562. But that is not taken into consideration. If you make 80% of the adjusted median income, you're making $72,900 a year. If you make 120%, you're supposed to be on market rate. Low is anything below that $72,900, even if you only make $26,000, say, plus change. Now, even if we assumed other things being equal, which they aren't, the reality on the ground isn't remotely being faced. Senate Bill 35 was passed in 2017 and implemented by right approval of multifamily housing projects in cities that don't issue enough permits for income targets. Whoops. But developers apply for the permits, not the cities. And the RENA numbers aren't determined in a vacuum, but under lobbyists. I'm going to send you this because, of course, it's too long for me to read.
Thank you,
even
Dolores.
what I tried to read. Thank you.
Thank you.
Final two speakers, Becky Rapp, followed by Mike Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor Blake Sparrow, council members. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a parent and a public health advocate and have worked with the county the County Tobacco Control Coalition. I appreciate the discussion today surrounding the environment, specifically the ocean and marine life, as my comments follow suit. I'd like to start off by thanking Mark O'Connor on the city's Environmental Commission for presenting on July 14th the proposed recommendation for the city to adopt an ordinance limiting public smoking areas within the city limits. The commission voted that evening to move the proposal to City Council. Parents, community members, and business owners have wanted the use of tobacco products banned in public areas for a very long time, including single-use vapes. The reduction of secondhand smoke and vapor exposure will improve public health. Encinitas could join cities like Coronado, Del Mar, El Cajon, Escondido, La Mesa, and Oceanside by restricting smoking on sidewalks. This policy would also have a positive effect on our environment. Dr. Tom Novotny, Professor Emeritus of Epidemiology and Biostatistics at the San Diego State University School of Public Health, describes cigarette butts as a toxic waste that leach out chemicals, metals, and plastics into the marine environment, as well as single-use vapes, which have batteries and become hazardous waste. Beach cleanups worldwide have resulted in tobacco waste as the #1 item picked up. San Diego is no exception, as the #1 item picked up on beaches in our county is cigarette butts and filters. As Dr. Novotny stated, banning outdoor smoking can reduce tobacco product waste in geographic areas and support a community non-smoking norm, a win for citizens and the environment. So today I encourage you to consider the Environmental Commission proposal and consider placing it on an upcoming agenda. Thank you very much.
short. So my name is Mike Johnson. I'm the executive director of SD Must, or local civil rights organization. I'm formally asking on behalf of volunteer members of our organization, People of Encinitas, that reside in your city, that you immediately repeal and remove the no clapping, cheering, jeering, or booing policy stated on your city council agenda. These actions are protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and are considered pure forms of speech by the state and federal government and the Supreme Court of the United States. One case specifically says restrictions on speech in a public forum must be justified without reference to the protected speech's content. ACLU versus City of Los Angeles, 2006. And this one's really important, is audience activities such as heckling, interrupting, harsh questioning, and booing, even though they may be impolite and discourteous, can nonetheless advance the goals of the First Amendment. For many citizens, such participation in public meetings, whether supportive or critical of the speaker, may constitute the only manner in which they can express their views to a large number of people. The Constitution does not require that the effective expression of ideas be restricted to rigid and predetermined patterns. There are more legal cases we can cite that also set precedents for the people to exercise their rights in a public forum without being censored or restricted by the subjective rules of decorum. If you do not immediately rescind and/or repeal the no clapping, cheering, jeering, or booing policy from your public meetings, we will be forced to take legal action to rectify this egregious violation of the people's constitutional and civil rights. We await your reply. Please respond within 7 calendar days. If you want to clap or cheer now, you can. Thank you.
That does conclude oral communications.
Madam Mayor, I just would like to ask our city manager to ask our law enforcement to come to a future meeting to give a briefing on some of the comments that were made by one of the speakers regarding drug use in the downtown, or what he experiences increase in drug use and crime in the downtown. I just wanted to ask law enforcement if they've experienced that and any resources that we can dedicate to this if in fact it's an issue.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Mosca. Yeah, and I do see our Sheriff's Captain, Captain Lopez, so we will work with him to see any information we can bring back for council.
Okay, thank you. So next we have our report from closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At approximately 5 p.m., the City Council recessed into closed session as listed on the special meeting agenda. On the 4 items, the City Council took no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're on to changes to the posted agenda.
Yes, Mayor, as we mentioned earlier, item 10E has been removed from the agenda and will not be considered this evening. And then moving on to the consent calendar, item 8J has been removed from the consent calendar by a member of the public.
Okay, I would entertain a motion on the balance.
I'll move the remainder of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hinsey absent. That does take us to item 8J, and the speaker is Scott Campbell.
Okay, Scott, would you like to come up and make your comments?
Yes, and thank you for moving this up. That's great. Okay, so since this is election season, I take the smile off. You're going to sign a document with a big error in it. You're sending Councilmember Joy to Sacramento, is what the document says. And let me put my glasses on here so I can get my prepared statement just right. It just basically shows failure and oversight from the leadership top. You know, if you can't make these simple, routine documentations correct, what are we going to do on the big things? Remember, this is an election. It also shows a weakness in the quality system in the city and overall. There's what's the review process for this? It got all the way to the city council and you're ready to have your pen and there's a big error in it. And it shows a lack of detail. Other than that, have fun at the meeting. I hope you represent us well. The agenda looks packed. I look forward to report and seeing and hearing which sessions you attended. And that's all I have to say. It's a simple clerical error, but it points to bigger things. Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify what the public speaker is saying, Mr. Scott, the conference is in Long Beach. It's not in Sacramento.
You need to check the resolution that you're actually going to sign.
Correct, Mayor. He did point out the error to us prior to the meeting when he registered to speak. The resolution in one place does reference Sacramento. We've since corrected that, so we will note that.
And you're welcome for bringing that to your attention.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
we
thank you.
really appreciate it.
So
That's
it
very
has
helpful,
been corrected,
yes.
so the signed copy will reflect the correct Long Beach.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I would entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move this motion. So Councilmember Lyons is the city's representative to the League of California Cities, and they have an annual conference in Long Beach. So it makes perfect sense that we would send our representative to Long Beach to attend that conference and to vote on behalf of our city on the numerous items that are going to come before the Assembly at that meeting. So I think this is a fairly routine matter, and I'll move this item.
I would second it, and I just am glad that we're not sending her to Sacramento instead. The conference is in Long Beach, so thank you.
Long Beach is nice. I like Long Beach.
And I was going to clarify that, but thank you, Deputy Mayor Mosca, for clarifying.
Okay, great.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay, great. Now we are on to our first action item, which is public hearing to consider an appeal of the Planning Commission's approval of a density bonus design review permit, boundary adjustment, and coastal development permit for the demolition of 4 existing commercial structures and parking areas, et cetera, item 10A. So we will go to the procedures for appeal. So these are the procedures, which I'll just go over so everybody knows what they are. We will have a staff report first, and then council will disclose any other information they've received that is not included in the staff report. And we can have preliminary questions from council. And then I will open the public hearing, and the appellant will go first with 10 minutes. And then the applicant goes next with 10 minutes. Then we have public speakers, then rebuttal by applicant, and then rebuttal by appellant. And then we close the public hearing, and we have council discussion and action. So with that, I will hand it over to staff to begin the staff report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, and members of the public. I'm Mpa Collaborative, Planning Manager, and I'll be presenting the Maria Village appeal this evening. The project site is located at 1900 and 1950 North Coast Highway 101, and it consists of 3 legal parcels. The site is surrounded by a Leela Maria Resort Hotel to the north and Sea Bluff Village planned residential development to the south and west, and North Coast Highway 101 to the east. 2 of the 3 parcels, as shown on this slide, are a housing element site allocated to address the regional housing needs assessment for the city of Encinitas. It was referred to as Site 07, the Jackal Properties, and the housing element identified the intent of the developer was to construct all parcels as a mixed-use project. All 3 parcels are located within the North 101 Corridor Specific Plan. Parcels 1 and 2 are zoned limited visitor serving commercial with residential 30 overlay, special study, and coastal overlay. And then parcel 3 is zoned commercial residential mixed use. And as I mentioned, that's the one parcel that is not included in the housing element, so it does not have the R30 overlay, but it is in the coastal overlay zone. As mentioned, the request before you is an appeal on the approval of a density bonus, design review permit, coastal development permit, and boundary line adjustment for the mixed-use development. In addition, it's an appeal of the certification of the environmental impact report with a statement of overriding considerations for transportation impacts, specifically VMT impacts, vehicle miles traveled. I'll briefly highlight the appeal points that are for consideration this evening. The first being the position that the project is inconsistent with land use requirements. It's out of touch with the design guidelines of the specific plan, and that it does not minimize visual impacts. So staff's response noted in the agenda report provided the applicable government code section 65913.4, which does require housing projects to be reviewed by adopted objective standards. So with the adoption of the housing element, our 30 development standards were established that addressed things like minimizing bulk and scale, and the project was found to be in compliance with those standards. The specific plan also includes development regulations in regards to that, and the project was found to be in compliance with the specific plan as well. The applicant states that the project does not conform to the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, as it relates to vehicle miles traveled. That statement made is that feasible mitigation measures and alternatives were not considered, and the appellant expanded on bicycle facilities specifically. In response, the EIR did provide the appropriate mitigation measures and alternatives. Specifically, mitigation measure TR1, and it's shown on this slide here. It required transportation demand measures, TDMs, to be implemented, such as a voluntary employer commute program, developing a bike share program, providing pedestrian improvements, such as a connection to the hotel to the north. And it does show on the set of plans that connection to the hotel. And to provide information about maps, routes, and schedules for public transit. The agenda report further described the project complied with alternative analysis, and we do have CEQA staff, Bob Stark from Michael Baker International here to answer any specific questions regarding CEQA. I did also want to mention that on sheet A1.1 of the site plan, it does show several locations of the bike racks. They're very small, hard to find, but they're on that sheet there, and it shows approximately about 50 bicycle spaces. And the applicant did indicate that he wants to try to maximize the amount of bicycle spaces for the project site. A statement was made by the appellant that the EIR failed to adequately address greenhouse gas, air quality, traffic, aesthetics and land use, soils and geology, and noise. However, no substantial evidence was provided to support the claims. So staff and Planning Commission found that the final EIR appropriately addressed these topics in the response to comments. The next appellant position was that the project failed to comply with various general plan standards, including but not limited to traffic. As shown in the agenda report, the traffic is in compliance with objective general plan policies, and as referenced prior, the government code section referencing the requirement to use objective standards. So the project was found to be in compliance with the objective general plan policies. No evidence was provided to support the claims made regarding general plan policy consistency. The last appellant position stated that there are additional CEQA violations and that the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters statements were not addressed. The position further stated that they believed the project description to be more massive because of the 4 hotel rooms that were added to the project description, and that, again, regarding failed mitigation and that the EIR required recirculation. So staff and Planning Commission found the Carpenter's letter to be addressed in the Planning Commission report, and it was further discussed at that specific June 16th hearing. The report explained the parameters in which recirculation of an EIR is required, and none of those requirements were warranted for the recirculation. And then lastly, all mitigation measures are in place to comply with CEQA. In conclusion, staff is recommending that City Council deny the appeal, affirming the Planning Commission decision to approve the project, certify the EIR, adopt CEQA findings of fact and mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and adopting the statement of overriding considerations pursuant to Resolution 2022-89. And I do want to state for the record, there was a error in page 1 of the staff report that referenced the incorrect number in the recommendation, but the resolution itself does have the correct resolution number, which is stated on this slide, 2022-89. This concludes my presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we'll have council disclose any other information they've received. So we'll start with you, Councilmember Kranz.
Nothing to disclose.
Nothing to disclose.
No initial questions and nothing to disclose.
I also have nothing to disclose. So with that, I will open the public hearing. And now we have the appellant going first. With 10 minutes.
Gotta wait for my slide to start. Okay, some Sea Bluff vital stats. I want to say we're not against development. You know, progress is inevitable. We understand the need for low-income housing. We totally get that. It's really just the massive size and scale. This is the biggest development on Highway 101 in Encinitas ever. Maybe the hotel's bigger, but right next door, not sure which one's bigger. And there's some real public safety concerns. So we're urging you to uphold the appeal and reject the project and the final EIR as proposed. Oh, sorry. Okay, yep, let me do that. So there's a little view of Sea Bluff going in and from the ocean there. So you all know about the lawsuit that happened when 3 people were buried alive just north of Grandview in front of the Sea Bluff area. What we're really concerned about is cumulative overdevelopment. It's not just Maria Village, it's all those. The hotel, the apartments, Maria Village, retail center, Vulcan, 72 units being built now, the hotel, the other things. And then right up a couple miles north on Ponto, 450 units between townhomes and hotel rooms. And there's a map. It's all crammed into the corner there. The hotel, Maria Village, Vulcan, et cetera, et cetera. Those red lines there are the Vulcan and La Costa. Now you can, La Costa is rated an F currently. There's no sidewalks. There's been no upgrades to roads, sewers, water. There's going to be a roundabout out here, but that's not going to do much. We're putting between the hotel and Maria Village and Vulcan and those other ones about 700 cars on a road that's rated F with no sidewalks. So I wanted to point that out. There's the Ponto notice that shows the 450 plus units between the two of them. Some of our key concerns there. Lack of overall public safety infrastructure, sidewalks, crosswalks, et cetera, et cetera. You can see all that there. Okay, so the fragile coastal environment, this is a big issue for us. As you know, the water runs downhill from I-5 and towards the coast, literally leaks through the bluff there. The tide's coming up so high now that people move their towels all the way up against the bluff because the water comes all the way to the bluff now. So when they were building the hotel, I don't know if any of you guys know this or not, or a geologist knows this, but at our office of Sea Bluff, about an 1/8 to a 1/4 mile south, when they're putting in the caissons, you could feel it pounding and shaking every day for months and months. At a meeting that Mr. Jackal was at last week at Sea Bluff, people talked about their dishes shaking, cracked countertops, and the bluff in front of where Maria Village is, we're going to put 2 stories of subterranean parking, is closer than the hotel was to the office. So right in front of it, there's signs all over the place, unstable bluffs, slide area, and you get, those bluffs are gonna move. They're pounding and shaking, and so I am not, there was a slide at Beacons, as you know, just recently, and so I'm not saying that that the last slide that killed the people was because of the hotel shaking and all that. I'm not a geologist. I'm not an engineer. I don't play one on TV. I'm saying that, in fact, the city and Sea Bluff attorneys are saying it's naturally occurring. But what I am saying is it's possible that all that pounding and shaking can contribute to bluff instability and trigger slides. And so the city, with beacons, the city is working with Scripps Institute and installed equipment jointly with Scripps Institute at beacons after this last slide to monitor seismic activity. And seismic refers to earthquake and other vibrations of the earth. And the bluff will shake, it will vibrate when these caissons are there. It's gonna shake and vibrate. People are putting their towels right below that, okay? So, you know it's gonna happen. So there's a few things that you could do, that you could all do to ensure public safety and be extra cautious so this tragedy doesn't happen again. And that's just what you did at beacons. Require seismic monitoring the same way you did at beacons. We're asking you to do that. That seems a very reasonable, prudent thing to do. You could also, from a financial point of view, have the developer hold harmless the city and Sea Bluff and the state of California, all the people that got sued, all the entities that got sued. You could do that. And they would have to post a bond because the hold harmless and indemnification isn't worth much without the bond. They can buy subsidence insurance through Lloyd's of London, more financial protection for the city and Sea Bluff and the state. So the other option is do nothing at all, don't have any monitoring or any sensors or anything, and just hope for the best.
Thank you. Before I continue on with this project, I just wanted to make note that we were made aware that this council does not allow for remote participation, and by refusing to allow people to participate remotely, the city is infringing on the people's rights of due process, fair hearing, and opportunity to participate in the democratic process, particularly with all the significant public health issues that are going on. It's pretty easy to set something up to allow people to appear remotely, and not doing so is really an infringement on people's rights to participate in public hearings. So we've already discussed some of the environmental health and safety concerns. There will be additional traffic. There will be a lot of more pollution. So that includes greenhouse gas emissions that will affect air quality. It will also affect the aesthetic and land use of the area, soils and geology, and noise. And these comments were submitted for the draft EIR, but the final EIR did not adequately address these comments. There's also been a failure to analyze and adopt feasible mitigation measures. The failure to analyze and adopt these measures and alternatives is required to reduce and eliminate project impacts. The applicant's June 16th response faulted us for not providing calculations or a standard for this, but the burden never rests on the public to design adequate mitigation measures and alternatives. That burden lays with the agency, and they bear the burden of showing that the project approvals included meaningful consideration of alternatives. We also noted the inconsistencies with the LCP and the North 101 corridor specific plan because the project does fail to conform with objective design measures for mixed use scale and bulk. The specific plan provides the scale of the new buildings should be compatible with existing buildings in the area, but the project exceeds existing conditions, including the adjacent Sea Bluff community. The project also fails to conform with objective design measures for residential architectural considerations. The specific plan provides that new residential development should be compatible with desirable characteristics and scale of surrounding neighborhood, but the project's bulk and scale is out of character, especially when compared to surrounding structures and the communities. And I would also like to take a moment to just note that the city is required, pursuant to both federal and state law, to address issues raised by tribal concerns. And as we have known and spoken to the tribe recently, that is not what has happened thus far. Finally, there's also inconsistencies with the general plan in that the requirements of level and service impacts. The staff report acknowledges this failure, but also urges the city council to approve the project anyway.
So, as you know, bonus density laws do not require the City Council to approve all development. This appeal identifies objective requirements and health and safety impacts that give the city the ability to deny the project and/or require the applicant to make significant changes to the project. We urge the City Council to uphold the appeal and reject the project and the final EIR as proposed. And you shouldn't ignore the obligations to our indigenous people.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will go to the applicant for 10 minutes.
Hi, Mayor Blakespeare and Council. My name is Larry Jackal. I am a 53-year local here in San Diego. I live with my family now in Solana Beach. My business partner and I have spent the last 25 years building and redeveloping projects all over the western side of the United States. And we've never been more proud of one than the Leela Beach Resort that we finished a year ago and been open for business, and really excited to have there. That project, as you know, took almost 30 years to come to fruition. A lot of people tried before us. We weren't any more special than anybody else. We just happened to have very good timing, and we're fortunate enough to have the wherewithal to get that done. The reason I bring that up is that site was always going to be a hotel. It was zoned as a hotel, and whether it was us or somebody else, somebody was going to build a hotel on that site. It's very similar to the site next door, which is land that we acquired at the same time that we purchased the hotel land. And for the last 14 years, there's been small but little ideas of development on that site. As we purchased the land initially, we were approached from the committee that was doing the housing element for Encinitas to provide the much needed housing here. Our biggest concern initially was, sure, we want to help, we want to do that, but we think that a sea of apartments there is not the right thing. We'd like to do something that had a little bit more amenity for the community and the public in the area. So we said we would do it as long as it's a mixed-use site. At that time, we agreed, and we went to Coastal Commission. Coastal Commission sat down with us and said, that's great. We're glad you guys worked this out, but we want more hotel rooms because you're one of the last developable pieces west of Coast Highway where we can still have some hotel space. So we came to this collective agreement that we would do a mixed-use project that would provide really for everybody. It would allow for the housing that's much needed in Encinitas, along with affordable housing. It would allow for more hotel rooms for the Coastal Commission and affordable rooms there as well. And then it would also allow for ourselves, the community, the public to have amenity space there to enjoy. The design of the project was, intended to not have any fights. We tried to do everything we could from day one to appease everyone. We even, our very close neighbors who the Friends of Sea Bluff are involved with, we tried to be very careful with how we designed the project. The heights of the buildings do not go higher than the heights of the Sea Bluff homes. We tried to put the minimum amount of square footage on the site that we could, the minimum amount of hotel rooms, the minimum amount of apartments, where it still made the project feasible to construct. It's a walking and biking village. We have underground parking. This is meant to be about bicycles and walking, not about cars. So we have every car hidden. We have 68 bike racks. We have electric charging stations, solar throughout the project. And in addition to that, the entire north corridor of the streetscape project is something that we will provide the city as we develop this project, and everything that touches Coast Highway there. And then when the talks broke down with Sea Bluff not long ago regarding the roundabout that was intended to go at Bishopsgate, we agreed to put a roundabout in because we knew that the traffic along Coast Highway would be, the infrastructure would be much better having a roundabout there. So we now have in our plan a roundabout at the entrance to our project. Over the past 2 years, I personally have held almost 50 meetings with members of the community, members of CBluff. I've taken input from everybody that had anything constructive to say about the project, and I think we've put together a pretty neat project. I would tell you, of the 400 people that we now have that are big fans, probably half of them were initially hesitant when we described the project, but after learning about all of the benefits and seeing the project, understanding what our goals were, they became fans as well. But I guess the reason we're here tonight is because not everybody's a fan of the project. And I imagine you're going to hear some public speakers that'll come up in a moment. Some may be against the project. And they're going to reiterate what Tom and the attorneys have mentioned about the issues with the project that they or the concerns that they have. Things like traffic issues, bluff instability, illegal building heights, things like that. I will just say, again tonight, like I say in every one of our meetings, I am not the smartest person in this room, nor am I ever in any of these rooms when I get together with all of the engineers and consultants. I think what people need to understand is the people who are requiring us to build this project the right way are highly trained, licensed consultants that are looking into every single one of these aspects of a project before they give us the ability to go forward. Then you have the planning directors from the city of Encinitas that review everything that these consultants come up with, and they're also a heck of a lot smarter than I am at figuring out what works for these projects. So I would just say that so when we first started this, actually, as a result of needing these consultant reviews, I agreed to do a environmental impact report on this project. It wasn't necessary, but it was something that everybody encouraged us to do, to say, if you get all of these consultants, if you get these experts to weigh in on this and do all these surveys, spend a lot of money to do those consulting reports and take an extra 14 months of time to do them, you're going to be in a much better position when you get to the finality of this project and be able to build it, which we did. I think, for anyone to assume that the traffic consultants do these reports and they don't consider the cumulative projects that are going on in the area is just silly. Every report that's done is considering everything that can take place and is taking place in that project now and going forward. Same thing with the bluff concerns. We've had geotech engineers review every aspect of that bluff. We've had the city geotech engineer review their reports, and then we've had third-party reports done as well, just to verify that everyone knows what they're talking about in regards to things that go on the bluff. We've done all these painstaking efforts just to make sure that as we sit here today, we can go forward with this project. I think it's important for us all to remember that, one day, a long time ago, the CBluff community was vacant land in Leucadia. Somebody built homes on that land for people to live. All of Leucadia was vacant land. And I just find that it's hard to understand and justify how people can have their home built on this vacant land and then figure that enough is enough and another piece of properly zoned land can't become homes for other people to experience the area and live there as well. So we sit here 30 months after we began, a significant cost, what we think is a great project that received 4-0 Planning Commission vote, and we have this appeal in front of us. My goal is to leave here tonight with another approval on this project because it's the right project in the right area. It's just not realistic that nothing will ever be built on this site, and we think that what we have there is a great option for the community, and we think it fits in perfectly. We want to get this construction going so that the streetscape project can be completed. Mpa Village can be completed, and all the construction that has been causing so much commotion over all these years can finally be done in the northwest Encinitas area, and we can all go back to living our lives peacefully. So thank you very much for your time today and consideration. Like a minute left if Marco can come up for 1 second. Thanks.
Mayor, members of the council, Marco Gonzalez with Coast Law Group on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to save most of my comments for the rebuttal that occurs after public comment, but I did want to remind you that your consideration today is constrained by the issues that were part of the appeal. The appeal that was filed by one entity, the Friends of Sea Bluff. Now, granted, they tried to bootstrap in just about everybody else's comments and everybody else's letters, but the fact is, to the extent that you hear comments on issues that were not specifically raised in their appeal, they're not properly the subject of a decision tonight. I'll wait until after those comments are received, and with our 5 minutes of rebuttal, I'll address the technical legal issues.
Okay, thank you. Now we have public speakers.
Okay, we have approximately 11. Just a reminder, you do have 3 minutes. The first speaker is Dr. Giorgio Curti, followed by Kevin Cox, followed by Alan Marcher.
On June 18, 2019, California Governor Newsom signed Executive Order N-1519, presenting formal recognition that the state of California historically sanctioned over a century of depredations and prejudicial policies against California Native Americans. In its preamble, the state offers direct acknowledgement that in the early decades of California's statehood, the relationship between the state and California Native Americans was fraught with violence, exploitation, dispossession, and attempted destruction of tribal communities. The state of California's laws and policies discriminating against Native Americans and denying the existence of tribal government powers persisted well into the 20th century. The recent actions and inactions of the City of Encinitas and its Planning Commission for the Mpa Village project and failures to fulfill and respect required compliance mandates and responsibilities of CEQA and its AB 52 additions for the project demonstrate that this legacy of discrimination against the Mpa Collaborative people of the San Pasqual Band and denial of the existence of the band's government powers continues to persist well into the 21st century with the City of Encinitas here today. As the city is well aware, its boundaries are within the traditional use area and familial and ancestral land and waterscape of the San Pasqual Band. The band provided the city with formal notice through a written letter outlining requests for AB 52 consultation over 2 years ago. Consequently, the city failed in its responsibilities under AB 52 to consult with the band regarding the project. The city has not disputed this fact. Rather, the city places blame for its non-compliance on a single city employee who failed to record receipt of the San Pasqual letter. AB 52 does not make an exception for lead agencies to neglect consultation with tribes because of employee negligence, disinterest, or oversight. By failing to consult with the band, the city has neglected both its consultation and cultural resources compliance responsibilities for the project to account for San Pasqual and Kumeyaay Nation tribal cultural resources, or TCRs. The band must state for the record that the Encinitas Planning Commission was made fully aware of these failures and compliance at a public meeting on June 16th, yet still approved the project. Given the city's failures to abide by consultation requirements and dependence on cultural survey work for the project that is premature, exclusionary, and highly incomplete, the city has not fulfilled its compliance responsibilities under CEQA. CEQA stipulates that consultation must exist prior to the release of any negative declaration, mitigated negative declaration, or EIR for a project. Failures in compliance have disallowed the band and wider Kumeyaay Nation from identifying how the project may cause substantial adverse change in the significance of a San Pasqual TCR, and therefore result in a significant effect on the environment. The central question then before us today is if the Encinitas City Council, you Mayor Blackspear, you Councilmember Krantz, you Deputy Mayor Mosca, and you Councilmember Lindes are going to continue these legacies and acts of discrimination by further denying the rights afforded to the band under CEQA and AB 52, by denying the appeal and approving a project that has not achieved regulatory and legal compliance. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor Blakespear, distinguished council members, my name is Kevin Cox. I am both a resident and a business leader in Encinitas, and I'm here this evening to show my support for the Mpa Village project. Having attended one of the many information sessions put on by Fenway Capital Advisors, as well as meeting with the architect for the project, I'm convinced that Mpa Village is in complete alignment with everything Encinitas stands for. It will be a hub for commerce. It will house restaurants, shops, artist studios, and office space that will add tax revenue for the city. It will serve as a meeting ground for locals, tourists, and North County community at large. It will add much-needed houses, including hotel rooms and also including low-cost housing to our community, and with it, additional occupancy tax dollars for the city. It will support the city's climate action plan by including electric vehicle charging, bike share docking stations, and a live, work, play communal environment. And it will do all this in a way that is uniquely Encinitas, a way that pays homage to the environmental impact by not pushing the boundaries and limits of size, height, and occupancy, but rather focusing on what resonates with our native landscape and local vibe. In short, it will be another jewel in the crown of Encinitas, something that everyone can be proud of, not just for its aesthetic beauty and style, but for its contribution to the community. It will certainly be a place that all of us can call home. So for this reason and many others, I would like to once again express my support for this important project. And I'd like so many of us here tonight, I'd like to ask each of you, I'd actually like to urge each of you to approve the Mpa Village project today. Thank you so much for your time.
Next speaker is Alan Marcher, followed by Dolores Lodel, and then Diana Nunes.
Good evening, council members. My name is Alan Marcher, and I've lived in the area for over 40 years, raised my 2 sons here as well. And my comments tonight are specifically on quality of life, not the statistics that were raised earlier or the policies or anything of that nature. I have come down to the beaches here for 40 years, and the traffic on La Costa Avenue is out of control. I did a little experiment tonight, and I came down at 4:30, and there were about 30 cars deep waiting to get through that stop sign. And that's at 4:30 during the week, not a beach time. People are leaving the beach. It made no sense to me. I think that letting this project proceed without any modifications to La Costa Avenue to accommodate the increased traffic is irresponsible. My second comment is regarding the actual bluff issues that were raised earlier. I'm a licensed mechanical engineer in the state of California. I'm not a geotechnical engineer, but I can tell you that the pounding of those caissons is going to transfer through the ground into that bluff area. And to not put any sensors, which is my understanding that has been rejected, to monitor the movement of that bluff, I think is also irresponsible. And we could potentially lose another family like we did at the south end of the development there, Sea Bluff. With that, that's my comments. Thank you for my time.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. My name is Dolores Lodel, and I've been a Leucadia resident on Hillcrest Drive for 26 years. In addition, our family owns a property in Sea Bluff next to this proposed project. I would like to speak in favor of Mpa Village project. It's a beautiful project that has been carefully designed to not only reflect the character of Leucadia, but to enhance it. I personally look forward to visiting this village and enjoying all that it will offer. I have seen numerous presentations about the project, and I'm very excited about the development itself, and that we have a developer who is building this with thought and care for what is going to be needed in this community. I've watched other projects in our area get approved that do meet housing needs, but do not offer the citizens anything else in addition to that. The Mpa Village project is a combination of everything we need here in the northwest quadrant of Leucadia. Of course, it gets us to that much-needed housing goal with affordable units, but even more importantly for its residents in the surrounding area, we get the very much-needed amenities so that we can walk and bike to a community place to eat, drink, and be neighborly. In addition, the added hotel rooms at this project will bring in more of the much-needed tax revenue in order for our city to work on infrastructure improvements. This developer certainly could have just built a bunch of apartments on that site, and that would have given us in the community no opportunity to share in that property. But with this village, we will get to do that. I also feel that the developer has been very sensitive by designing the property with community character in mind. Far more open space than what is required, not maximizing heights and setbacks, and going above and beyond in addressing mobility issues with green initiatives with the use of electric charging stations, bike racks, and a live, work, and play environment. Finally, I'm personally looking very forward to not looking at the eyesore that is the defunct Davina's restaurant anymore. My feeling is that we should be applauding and approving this project that's of this quality and design. And once we move forward from that, we should be spending our time focusing on ways to fix our infrastructure problems. We simply must come up with much needed solutions on how all of our families are going to safely get from our neighborhood up and down Vulcan, across the Coast Highway, and across the train tracks legally without walking through the cut cords in order to get this project into the beach. Thank you in advance for helping us Leucadians and for your consideration with this project.
Mayor and council members, having considered both the supporting and opposing positions regarding the proposed Maria Village project, I, as a longtime Northwest Leucadia resident, believe this project will have an overall positive impact by providing needed housing, services, and tax revenues. When compared to the other many new planned developments in Northwest Leucadia, this proposed development and developer is unique. As the owner of the adjacent Leela Maria Hotel, this development group has the greatest interest, both financially and otherwise, in making this project the best it could be. As rarely experienced with other developers of large projects, this development group, led by Larry Jackal, has made many attempts to actively engage the community, recognize their concerns, and offer solutions to mitigate those concerns. The realities of increased demands on mobility and traffic in this corridor are real. However, this project alone should not bear the brunt of the over-programmed densification of this corridor. This project, as proposed, exceeds its fair share contribution to infrastructure. The city that designated this site for high-density development must also do its part by prioritizing and funding the infrastructure that is and will be needed. Being sensitive to environmental impacts and community character are also critical, and it appears that this project, as designed, is sensitive to these considerations. This project is not planned to its maximum allowable density. This reflects not only intelligent and considerate development, but reflects the understanding that bigger is not always better. In the long run, not maximizing development often is more financially beneficial to the developer as well as the community. I applaud this foresight and only wish that others could understand this wisdom. Furthermore, services in this end of Highway 101 have been lacking. The retail, office, hotel, and artisans offerings from this project will help fill this void for our community. Finally, unlike the many high-density projects programmed in this corridor, this project will actually give back by generating significant and desperately needed city revenues. These revenues could and should be used to address the needs that have and will occur due to the planned densification in this area. Change is hard, it often provokes fear, but change is inevitable. Responsible change is a choice. I respectfully ask that the council approve this project to move forward and deny this appeal. Thank you.
Next speaker is Betsy Long, followed by Will Cragen, and then Tammy Temple.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Blakespear and council members for hearing us this evening. And I'm standing here in support also of the Mpa Village project, and I'd like to echo the comments that I've heard from others who are supporting it. My husband and I bought our home in Sea Bluff 20 plus years ago, and at that time it was disclosed to us that at some point a hotel would be built at the north end of Sea Bluff. Over the years, we watched various plans and developers come and go, knowing that someday the day would come when the project would be completed. We had hesitation about it, and we knew it was inevitable, and we were hopeful that the developer would be of a quality caliber and work with Seabluff on the ultimate end product. We couldn't have been more pleased with the outcome by Fenway Development of the hotel property and what it has now brought to the community, as well as their demonstration of being good neighbors to Seabluff, their commitment to quality, and creating a project that the entire community can be proud of. A couple of years ago, Larry Jackal approached me regarding the Mpa Village project because he could see that our home would be in a high-impact area of Seabluff to the project. He wanted to provide the concept and get my initial thoughts and concerns. Among my concerns were height, density, noise, and security. We talked through these as well as other concerns that I had over the coming months. I was happy to see that he was honestly taking my input to heart. Fast forward to today and what the project has undergone to receive final approvals. Knowing the potential of what could be built and what Fenway is proposing, I stand as a wholehearted supporter of this project and the benefits it will bring to Seabluff and Encinitas and the amenities within easy walking distance, enhanced security for our community by their presence there, and a place we can be proud to have as a neighbor. Am I going to lose some of my views? Yes. Could it be worse with a different developer down the road? Absolutely. I am so happy it is Fenway that is developing it. I am confident they'll do exactly what they're committing to. In my professional life, I had a long career working for and with developers, and there's a huge difference between those that are in the business to provide quality and lifestyle and those who are just in it to maximize revenue and move on and out of the community. I'm proud to support Fenway as the former of those kinds of developers, and I look forward to your approval of this project. Thank you.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. My name is Will Cregan, and I own and manage the Southwest Equity Partners Corporation and the Leucadia Creek Apartments at 1786 North Coast Highway 101, which is the property directly south of this property. In addition, we have 6 more multifamily properties in Encinitas and Leucadia. I'm a proud member of the Encinitas Business Exchange and the Rotary Club. And you'd think that owning the apartments next door, I wouldn't want more competition in the neighborhood, but it couldn't be any further from the truth. I bought my first home right back here on San Diego in 1989. I live on West I Street. Our corporate office is on 2nd and I Street, and I've watched our beach town grow and flourish over the last 33 years, and I love it. I resist change like many others, but change and progress are inevitable. I'm sure there were people who opposed the Seabluff condos directly behind our apartments when it was being proposed, but look how nice that turned out. And think of how many people have enjoyed living there, raising their families there, and vacationing there over the years. My wife and I have 5 kids between the ages of 20 and 30, and currently only 2 have chosen to reside here in Encinitas. Lack of available housing and affordability are the biggest issues. Please drop this not in my backyard attitude and promote more housing so that there are more options for the younger generation to live here. As it sits today, the site has a few temporary tenants and Roberto's Mexican food. The rest is an empty dirt lot doing nothing for our community. Mpa Village will bring in 94 new apartment homes, 18,000 square feet of retail space, 34 more hotel rooms so people can come and visit. And it also includes 19 of those units categorized as affordable with reduced rent and special qualification criteria to make sure that those go to the people who can't really afford to live at the current market rates here in Encinitas. And yet the developer chose to go with 20% affordable instead of the 15%. That's a win for Encinitas. Those opposing this project should also keep in mind the design of this project is less dense and smaller in size than what the current zoning would allow. Most developers would just want to max it out for max profit, but they choose not to. They chose to find a better balance for the neighborhood. And as for the claims this will create more traffic, any additional traffic created by these new homes has already been more than offset by the added carpool lane on the I-5 and ongoing traffic reduction measures along 101. The proposed roundabout at the Maria Village entry will only continue to reduce commuter traffic and increase safety along the 101. I've also heard that some worry about this development will cause the bluff to erode or collapse. There's more than 2 football fields distance between the edge of this development and the bluff, so that makes no sense. Those worried should focus more on the water percolation and runoff from the landscape up at Sea Bluff. In summary, we need this. Our kids need this, the city needs this. Please give this development your approval and put this dirt lot to better use. Thank you.
Next speaker is Tammy Temple, followed by Greg Dracos, and then Dolores Welty.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Temple. Clearly, I feel it's important to be here tonight. It's not super easy for me to be out and about these days, but my husband and I want to stand up and support Fenway Capital for this Mpa Village project. Literally everything that I would say tonight has already been said by other supporters of the project, so I would just like to reiterate a few points. One is, I think we're incredibly lucky as Encinitas residents to have a developer that lives in the area and takes the special and unique quality and character of Encinitas in mind. I also think that we should also take into consideration the fact that Fenway is looking at the overall design aesthetics of the project. They're looking at massing, they're looking at walkability, and I think in the end, we've all seen a lot of development along the coastal corridor, and this is by far one of the more attractive developments that we've had in our community in a while, in addition to their already project with the hotel next door. Lastly, as a homeowner who lives in Encinitas, and we've seen the continued rise in prices for housing sales as well as the rental market, I think adding the additional units to our housing as well as the affordable component is commendable and much needed. I think it's important that we continue to attract a diverse community and population in Encinitas to help maintain the special and unique character of this beach town where all of us of all income levels can live and grow and thrive. So if it's not clear, I'm asking for your support tonight of this project. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, and staff. It's nice to be back in the council chambers. It's been some time. Although I will say after being here tonight, I don't regret or otherwise want to be in your position you guys are dealing with. So far on my list, you've got drugs, global warming, sharks, bluffs. You can't clap, you're going to get sued. You're infringing on people's rights, and worst of all, egregious clerical errors. So that being said, I've learned a couple of things. One, I've learned about the marine protected areas, which is great. I've also learned how many Native Americans live in Sea Bluff. So I'm here to just, there's a lot that's already been said. I don't want to repeat a lot of it, but I'm here to just offer one perspective, and that is, the decision tonight sets a precedent. You have a great project, great developer. I recommend that you deny the appeal and support the project. Now, the precedent that gets set tonight is either going to say to the development community, bring us your best projects, bring us your most capable developers, your most thoughtful, your most creative. That's the standard we want to set in the city of Encinitas. Or you could say, bring us your developers who get projects through by force, litigation, lawsuits. So I would highly recommend that you deny the appeal and approve the project. Thank you.
Next speaker is Dolores Welty, followed by Keith Pittsford, and then Scott Campbell.
To tie it into my earlier If it's low-income houses, these are for people who make $84,000 plus change a year. What I am concerned about is the piecemeal approvals of so many projects that impact La Costa. I can get around by just making a right turn out of my cul-de-sac, but there are 50-some houses that have to come out on La Costa right now to go either left or right. They can't leave their homes to go any place unless they come out on La Costa. I've counted them. You've given me 48 more north of me, plus a hotel, a garden hotel, and some motel or a restaurant up by the filling station. And this development down here, plus the hotel. La Costa's a little tough for those of us that live there to use. I used to walk to the beach. I have to wait. I can't walk during rush hour. It's too scary for me. I was in the bike lane walking south, which would be on the north side of the street, which is wrong. You know, I should be walking south side. But how do I cross that street? There's no crosswalk, and even if there were, I don't think I would use it. There's no stop sign. I've asked for it. I thank you for the one on Vulcan. I would like to ask about the circle. If that circle is at La Costa and 101, I'll never make a left. I have to wait as it is until all these are stopped for a while, and all those are stopped at 101 before I can cross over. I can manage just by turning right. I do agree to that. But I'd like you to consider what you're doing to that street. Thank you.
Hello, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. My name is Keith Pittsford. I live at 1623 Pacific Ranch Drive, and I've been a resident here for 35 years. I'm also a planner. I'm currently sitting on the board of the Mission Valley Planning Board, and I've reviewed the project. And I'm here to voice my support for the project. I think it's exactly the type of project we should be encouraging. The things I see are much needed affordable housing and other housing in multiple formats and sizes, a hotel to enhance our tourist appeal and support local businesses and enhance our tax base, traffic calming measures on Pacific Coast Highway with a traffic circle that builds on the success of those added to Leucadia Boulevard, artist lofts to incubate local talent and keep Leucadia funky, and additional commercial opportunities with small new restaurant options. Finally, in my opinion, this is a well-designed, pedestrian-friendly project, and I think that the designer has paid attention to scale and massing, color, and materials that will enhance the neighborhood and cause those passing by to take notice, similar to the recent hotel, which is stunning. So thank you for your service to the city, and thank you for my time.
Is it possible to get my previous presentation up on the last page? Correct me if I'm wrong. CBUF went in 1975? Okay. It says 86. So CBUF was actually under county rules. So totally different rules. And actually CBUF is one of the reasons that the city of Encinitas is here. Just a little history lesson there. So let's talk about the bluffs. You can't poo-poo this. People died while the construction was going on for the existing hotel. Was it a coincidence? I don't know. Was it related? Last page, please. I don't know. I think that we should put monitors at the cliffs. Anybody go down to the beach today? I did. I walked the whole bluff between the parking lot and the sea bluff. And there's significant moisture significant moisture along the whole thing. Where's it coming from? The plans say that they're going to excavate 32 feet below the surface. Google Earth told me, and in front of Roberto's, it's 21.3 meters. I'm not going to do the math, but it's not that hard. It's pretty low. I'd mentioned encirclement earlier. Now, Sea Bluff is really encircled on 2 sides, and the ocean. It's encircled on 3 sides. It's like ready to snap off the whole thing. Something we got to think about this. Encinitas General Plan 1.3. This is a serious violation. I do not think that the staff recommendation that this is a overriding public need is correct. This is a public good, but it's not an overriding public need. A public need means the bridge is broken, the dam is cracking, people are dying. That I don't think any of those applications apply. In fact, I did a really good search, and it's the only place I could find that defined it was a port in China. And they actually said no matter what, the port must win. It was kind of interesting thing. The traffic. We mentioned this, you can read this. I'm not even going to talk about this. This is just for read, and it's for public knowledge. It's a level E and F right now. How are we going to fix this? I told you about the Vulcan. What are we going to do? But even more, these studies are old. Some of them go back to data in the 90s or from 2020, 2019. The traffic studies are not relevant, and they need to be updated. I'm not against this project. It's something that's going to get built, and it's probably going to be really nice. I'm not like apartments. I'd rather have condos. I would prefer home ownership than transient ownership, but that's all I can do. I voted for streetscape too. We need access to this thing. These are very big issues, and people mention precedent, and this is a big precedent. There's a lot of developments in this neighborhood, and the city council cannot take this on a piecemeal basis. Other than that, I think we know how this is going to vote's going to go, but just think about this. Thank you.
Mayor, that does conclude public comments, and then the following 6 individuals have registered opposition to the recommended action but do not wish to speak. Delilah Whitman, Desiree Morales Whitman, Destiny Morales, Angelina Gutierrez, Dennis Caden, and Patrick Line.
Okay, thank you to the public speakers. So now we have our rebuttal by applicant.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Marco Gonzalez, Coast Law Group for the applicant. When the appellant came up here, you heard Mr. Alper say, I'm not an expert. You actually just heard Mr. Campbell talk about things that are fairly technical, recognizing that he's not an expert. You heard a mechanical engineer come up here and reference the fact that he's not a geotechnical expert. We hire experts to study the bluffs. We hire experts to provide reports. Those reports are submitted to the city. The city's geotechnical consultants review them. And then after Planning Commission, we went out and had a third-party independent review done. Unfortunately, that document wasn't completed in time to submit for this hearing. But I can represent to you today that the findings of that document were that the work that we're doing on stormwater to move water infiltration off of the bluff and to direct it towards North Coast 101 actually helps the bluff. And it found that the more than 1,200 mini seismic events that happen every single day, whether they're naturally occurring or from the terrain, actually cause a greater impact to the bluff than we would ever have in our location building an underground parking garage. But the important thing is under CEQA, there's longstanding case law that says argument, speculation, an unsubstantiated opinion or narrative, evidence which is clearly erroneous or inaccurate, or evidence of social or economic impacts which do not contribute to or are not caused by physical impacts on the environment do not constitute substantial evidence. And for purposes of appeal of overturning an environmental impact report, you have to provide substantial evidence that would essentially undermine your discretion to believe what your own staff experts and what our consulting experts have presented to you, and that is that there will be no negative impact as a result of the construction of this underground parking garage. Now, that being said, it's important to remember that your municipal code has a very clear direction to the appellants when they file this appeal. It says that you have to provide each issue that you allege was wrongly decided together with every argument and a copy of every item of evidence submitted to the Planning Commission supporting each allegation. Instead of providing us something that we could actually come to you and respond to and point like that, you heard broad comments that the EIR was inadequate, that these broad issues of GHG emissions and VMT were not adequately addressed. From the from the applicant's standpoint, it's really hard for us to go in and say and figure out what it is that they're actually appealing. We did submit a comprehensive rebuttal letter to you, and importantly, that letter goes into some depth about the interplay between state housing law and the Coastal Act and LCP interpretation. And that's never mentioned in the appellant's paperwork or in their statements, that you have a duty as an interpreter of your LCP and of state housing law and your housing element to balance and harmonize those requirements. And as we know, and as we've seen with all the R30 sites, you have an obligation to focus on those objective development standards without imposing your own kind of discretionary view and subjective development standards. Now, what's interesting is that the appellants repeatedly say, we're relying on objective standards, but then they get up here before you and they say that the standards require compatibility and desirability and character. Those are not objective standards. Objective standards are a 15-foot setback, a 30-foot setback of a third story, a number that you can rely on objectively, not weigh the architectural aesthetic benefits of green versus blue. What they have basically said is, we don't have objective standards that we can rely on, but we're going to call them that for legal purposes and then try to convince you that you're not complying with the design review requirements of the North Coast 101 specific plan or of your LCP. I think staff got it right. I think the final EIR response to comment addresses all of these issues. I think that's why the Planning Commission unanimously approved the project 4.0 when they did. On the final issue of cumulative impacts, Table 3.0-1 identifies 15 projects in Encinitas and 2 in Carlsbad. This is from the final EIR. It assessed all of the dwelling units proposed on 10 housing element R30 sites, although many of those had not yet applied when the notice of preparation for this EIR was completed, which is the legal trigger. The notion that this EIR did not consider the cumulative impacts to GHG, to VMT, to LOS is just incorrect. They're grasping at straws, and it's unfortunate. With my last couple minutes, I do want to speak to the tribal issue. It is unfortunate that staff blew it, that someone left the city and did not do their job. And it blows our mind as the applicant that in the amount of time that the city's known about this, that there hasn't been a mechanism put in place to address the consultation needs of the Sampsqual Band. And we just want to make very clear from the applicant's perspective, we're willing to do whatever it takes to afford them, however much time it takes for them to come on site and do the site review and the consultation that would otherwise be required prior to certification of the EIR. Thank you.
Good evening. Now that I have an extra minute than I had before, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Isabella Rodriguez. I'm here with Delino and Delino. So good evening to the mayor, deputy mayor, and all members of council. I'm here appearing on behalf of Friends of Sea Bluff, and that's who we represent, members of this community. We're not representing anyone that's standing to make any financial profit on this project, either passing or not passing. We're here to make sure that the community is served, similar to all of you who have been elected to represent the community. So we are asking that you please take their health, their safety, and the other concerns that were raised into serious consideration when voting to approve or deny this appeal. There are portions of this project that are inconsistent with CEQA. There are portions of this project that are inconsistent with the LCP and the North 101 Corridor Specific Plan. There are portions of this project that are inconsistent with the general plan. And to pretend that they don't exist is just incorrect. That is why there's a statement of overriding considerations being filed, because that means that you are approving the project in spite of the fact that there are environmental risks that are not being avoided. There are constraints from the density bonus law. That is very true. But there are objective requirements and other health and safety impacts that give this city the ability to deny the project or at least require significant modifications before you approve it. Additionally, I would just like to remind the council that there was an alternative in the EIR, alternative number 4, which did reduce impacts to the environment, but still achieved many of the project objectives. However, the applicant has stated that they've made every concession possible, but this alternative was not adopted or seriously considered.
I'll just add a comment about experts. So, geology isn't an exact science. They had experts when they built the hotel next door, Mpa Village Hotel, and they didn't foresee that when they had a soft opening, people reported that there were cracked floors, cracked countertops because of the settling. Now, if the experts knew that was going to happen, they would have made some adjustments. So it's not an exact science. Something is going to be built there, but I totally agree with that. You don't need subterranean parking for 250 right near that bluff. The least you could do, again, is require sensors and monitoring. I don't know why a developer would be against that, but it's going to be shaking and there's going to be people right underneath it, and you guys all know about it. So as respects traffic, LOS Engineering said the cumulative effect of all these developments, roughly 10,000 additional daily trips. And that was done during COVID, not at peak hours when everyone was at home. Lastly, the tribe is the expert on tribal cultural resources. Nobody else. It's a failure in government-to-government responsibility. The developers have no say at all in that. They failed in CEQA and their AB 52 responsibilities as respects the tribe.
Would you like to use the rest of your time, or?
So, so again, it is a nice looking project, and I don't think Larry's a bad guy or any of that. We're just really, really concerned about the overall gridlock that's already happening, and all the neighborhoods around there, and Sheridan and Andrews and everybody around there. People can't get out of their driveways on La Costa Avenue. It's a giant gridlock thing. So I'm not saying there shouldn't be any development. I'm just saying it doesn't need to be the most massive development in the history of Encinitas, right there next to the other one that was right next door to the other most massive one in the history of Encinitas. So, those are big issues. And you guys, smartly with the Scripps Institute, the city and the Scripps Institute together installed equipment at beacons to monitor this. And I don't know why anyone would oppose requiring that same monitoring. If it turns out everything's great, then everything's great. If not, then we could have another tragedy on our hands. So to ignore that, I think, is a big issue. Again, the tide comes all the way up to the bluff now. Everyone pushes their towels up against the bluff, despite what the lifeguards tell them. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have staff or the city attorney address the AB 52 consultation failure and its impact on this project?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My understanding is that the various statements made tonight are not necessarily accurate. I would request that Bob Stark, the consultant, speak to the AB 52 issue.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and members of the council. My name is Bob Stark from Michael Baker International. I directed preparation of the environmental impact report for the proposed project. I think it's important to give a little context and history of the AB 52 process, which requires tribal consultation for all lead agencies throughout California. That law took effect in 2015, and the first step in that process is a critical one. It requires that any tribe that wants to be notified of projects that are subject to CEQA submit a letter in writing to the city saying, please put us on your list and keep us apprised then of any projects that come about. And then there's specific framework of procedure, timeframes, and powers of the lead agency in getting to resolution ultimately. So from 2015, I've been working with the city on various projects. Since then, I can recall another project on La Costa. It was up until about 2018, I want to say. There were 0 tribes on the notification list. So no tribe had notified the city that they wanted to be notified of projects under CEQA and under AB 52. About that time in 2018, we had documented that in an EIR for the city. And we notified the Native American Heritage Commission as well in Sacramento and said, look, there's no tribes that have notified the city, no records whatsoever that they want to be notified. And the Native American Heritage Commission responded and said, try harder, please reach out to the tribes yourself then, go above and beyond and make sure that's the case. And so the city did that. And there was one tribe that did respond and said, gosh, we ordinarily weren't really too concerned about what was going on in the city, but the Bataquitos Lagoon in particular represents the boundary of our ancestral lands, and these projects on La Costa are right on the lagoon. We're interested. Please add us to the list. Since that time, that tribe is the only tribe on the list. And so the city did comply with the requirements of AB 52 for this project because the city reached out to that tribe. It's the San Luis Rey Band of Luiseno Indians and have had a great relationship with that tribe over the last 5, 6 some odd years within the CEQA process. So reached out to that tribe before doing any investigations on this project site. That tribe sent representatives. So we had tribal monitors on site with the consultant team, archaeologists, that were reviewing methods, observing all the work, confirming the processes were adequate. Then reports were prepared, documenting everything that was found, all the record searches, all the surveys on the site, and there was information gathered from that. The city then went above and beyond, sent letters to about a dozen other tribes not on the city's AB 52 list and said, hey, we're reaching out to you. You may have information that would be useful to the city as we are navigating through the CEQA process. So those letters went out in December of 2020, and have a copy of that letter. Important thing to realize about this letter, nowhere in this letter that went out to these tribes, which includes the San Pasqual tribe, is the term AB 52 mentioned. And in fact, the letter from the city says, we're reaching out to you specifically as part of informal consultation. We are going above and beyond. We're reaching out to see if you have any valuable information or knowledge of the site that would help in our evaluation and mitigating whatever may be on that site. The letter that was received, which was referred to in the tribe's statement and their letter, which is dated December 29th of 2020, so it was just a couple weeks after they received the letter, does not say anything about AB 52, and in fact does not say that they want to consult at all. It says, please keep us posted of what's going to be happening, if there's any changes on the site, and we may require monitoring on site. And so that is where the trail kind of ended, and we, as city staff, said, okay, monitoring, we crafted a mitigation measure that will require monitoring. Monitoring is being required of this project, and specifically in the conditions of approval, the San Pasqual tribe is the tribal monitor that has been acknowledged, and there's a requirement there. What happened, unfortunately, and I appreciate your patience, but I think it's important to set for the record here, a subsequent letter was received in response to our letter from the San Pasqual tribe on February 16th. So this was just 2 months after this first letter that said, keep us posted, and we may want monitoring, but we don't want consultation. The February letter said we do want formal government-to-government consultation. Still does not mention AB 52, and I think it's important that this was not operating under that framework. that's, again, I don't know what happened after February 16th, 2021. I'm not aware of any conversations that happened between previous staff that were here and the tribe, but it was then many, many months, and we didn't hear from the tribe until just this past June, literally days before the Planning Commission hearing. I can assure you city staff did everything in their power, everything in my power, to arrange a meeting right away to hear what concerns or information they may have. We're still acting in good faith, meeting with them. I understand they visited the site. The city provided access to go and visit the site. They have all the reports, all of the confidential information, and they are, and a condition of approval was added before the Planning Commission hearing to assure that there is teeth in that measure, a legal requirement that they be allowed to be there and monitor. The mitigation language in the EIR also requires that they have authority. If they're out there monitoring and they see something and there's a resource that is discovered, they have authority to say stop, evaluate, and work with the city and other parties to figure out appropriate next steps. There will be plans in place for how artifacts, if any, that are discovered are recorded, repatriated, meaning put back in the ground in a respectful manner. But this is where we are today, continuing to work in good faith, but to this date we still unfortunately have not received any actual data of what they would like to see happen on the site or what tribal resources are there that the city may not be aware of. And again, it has been a long time, and it's unfortunate that there was those many months where the city just was not aware that they were waiting all those months to have consultation, have meetings. Fortunately, they did come forward in just this past June, and city staff is doing everything we can to be respectful, and knowing that I would assume that the tribe wants to be on the AB 52 list for all future projects. We want to foster that good faith working relationship for all projects, not just this one, moving forward in the future.
So what you're saying here at the end is that the San Pasqual tribe, who is the gentleman who spoke, it represents that tribe, that they do have the authority to be on site during construction and to evaluate if they find tribal resources.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so that is part of the project.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Yeah, it's one of the conditions.
There seems to be a bit of a dispute among the audience about that, but Councilmember Lyons has a comment or question.
May I
I'll
ask
let her go.
a clarifying question, please? I understand Tribal Consultation, a firm that I've owned. We conducted environmental permitting under NEPA, National Environmental Permitting Act, so I'm familiar with it. Is it not complete yet because you haven't engaged in the formal consultation? Is that the missing piece? It sounds like we've jumped ahead and we've established what our monitoring protocols are going to be, and we're trying to be clear about that. But is there a missing piece because they said that they wanted consultation and that hasn't happened yet?
They have certainly stated that they want to consult, and again, the city responded right away, and we set up a meeting. We talked. There was no information provided at that time. I don't want to put any words in the tribe's mouth, obviously, but they stated that they wanted to visit the site and they needed to see the site, and that they are the ones that would make determinations. Unfortunately, the CEQA, we're working within a certain framework of CEQA here, and if they are not codified, for lack of a better word, under the AB 52 process that the city undertook because they were not on the list, and again, they're acting as a stakeholder, and again, with great respect to the tribe, these, we want to work with them and we want to do the right thing, but at this point, we don't even know what resources are there that the city is not aware of, or what could have been done differently.
Mr. Stark, may I ask another question? We did, though, in December of 2020, ask other tribes if there was interest in additional consultation. You called it informal. We did ask.
Yes.
So we did ask.
We did ask, and we have logs of conversations with numerous other tribes. I'd say the majority of which said, yeah, thanks for informing us, but we don't have anything to add.
If I can just shortcut if possible, we did ask, and there's a tribe that said they were interested. And that's what I'm understanding, but am I understanding it wrong?
There's a little semantic and nuance there. So when we started, the outreach was to a singular tribe because they are the official tribe on the city's list that the city reaches out to for all CEQA projects. If we'd have gone out to the site and it was absolutely bare in the record searches and in the museums and other repositories and the archaeological field work determined there was absolutely nothing on the site, nothing further would have been done. But there were some resources discovered, and this is all documented in the environmental impact report. And it's because of that good practice would be let's throw our net out farther and see if there are others out there that may have important information, because there's a recognition that our native tribes, the indigenous peoples of California, they are the experts in knowing what's there, and that's why we undertake this process. But that process was undertaken. It's just that the San Pasqual tribe was not on that list to receive that initial notification. The official government-to-government requirement under AB 52. They received a subsequent notification for informal collaboration and consultation.
Thank you. You've answered my question.
Okay, so I'm going to let each side speak for 2 minutes to this, and I guess to really try to narrow in on what the ask is now, so not the recriminations about what happened before, but given where we are now, if there's a specific thing that each side would like to address about this. So, yes, sir, you can come up and speak first.
So first of all, there's a complete misunderstanding of AB 52 as part of CEQA and what the responsibilities are and why AB 52 exists. It exists because tribes fought for it to be included in processes like archaeology, like consultants that work through means to dispossess and alienate native people from native lands and waters. So a letter you admitted was sent to you, a follow-up letter saying they wanted consultation. In the previous letter, it also said that they wanted to be updated. CEQA and AB 52 require that before the completion of an EIR, the tribes have to be consulted. Did not happen. They keep saying it's unfortunate. It's not unfortunate. It's a failure on the city's part. That's what happened. This is a government-to-government relationship. The city failed. AB 52 requires a tribe to send a letter requesting consultation. San Pasqual did. The city did not fulfill its responsibilities. My understanding is there's an email where the city admitted it's because an employee just didn't register it. That negligence is not the tribe's fault. Further, archaeology can speak to one thing. Archaeologists can speak to one thing, archaeology. Tribal cultural resources are far broader than archaeology. These are ancestral places archaeologists trying to take ownership of, try to define native history, native geography, native identity. It's an alienating process. I'd be happy to send you loads of literature on this topic. The simple fact is the San Pasqual Band has not been included in this project the way they need to be, and therefore this project is wholly out of compliance. If you approve this, you're approving it knowing it is out of compliance in terms of its responsibilities to the San Pasqual Band. So what is wanted, there are tribal protocols. We need to go back to the chairman, the vice chairman, the tribal council. There are different tribal protocols about how we define these things. We don't just come up and say, oh, this is how it's done and walk away. So what we're asking for is more time and for you to accept this and understand that there needs to be a denial of approval of this project at this time. If not, you're approving a project you know is out of regulatory and legal compliance. Thank you.
All due respect to the representations made, I think that the city's consultant has the more appropriate and legally correct interpretation of how AB 52 works. I'm looking at the Native American Heritage Commission's tribal consultation under AB 52 requirements and best practices. And it's very clear that the prerequisite for AB 52 tribal consultation is a tribe that is traditionally and culturally affiliated with the geographic area where a project is located must have requested that the lead agency in question provide notification to the tribe of projects in the tribe's area of traditional and cultural affiliation. This is what Mr. Stark was talking about. Legally, to be on the AB 52 formal government-to-government consultation list, you have to provide a very specific type of notice to the city to be notified about those issues. Now, putting that aside, there is an argument being made by the tribe that they provided a different type of notice. And as was represented by Mr. Stark, it was treated as a different type of notice, an informal notice, an opportunity to provide information that, frankly, hasn't yet happened. However, equally important is the fact that the tribe appeared at the Planning Commission. The tribe was frustrated by the unanimous approval at the Planning Commission, but the tribe failed to appeal the issue of tribal consultation to this body. And the bootstrapping of that issue in any way, which I frankly could not find in the letters and anything else that was presented to the commission within the time frame required by the appellants, this issue is not appropriately before you tonight. That issue is waived by the tribe. That issue is waived by the Friends of Seabluff. And while we are more than happy and willing to accommodate pursuant to the condition that was placed upon us at the Planning Commission to continue to consult, to have a monitor on site, to do everything possible to assuage the cultural issues of the tribe, legally, they don't have standing to bring this issue before you tonight, and they're not the proper party to consult under AB 52.
Okay.
Putting that on the record. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to call on Councilmember Crayons now. Would you like to talk about this more, or I'll go ahead and close the public hearing?
Yeah, not really. I think that I think it would be good if we could. He had his 2 minutes that he really didn't. He continued to look backwards. He didn't look forwards. I would like to know what it is that we could do to condition the project to satisfy whatever it is that they are expecting. So, I don't know if we need another 2 more minutes, but focus on how
this
we
again speaks to tribal.
Wait, hold on a second. I really don't want this to get out of control because I already gave that direction, and at the end he said, "I think you should not approve this project." So I think that was the bottom line of what he said.
I also said there's appropriate tribal protocols, and you guys are not paying attention to that. Also, the tribe who they consulted is Lisenio,
hold on a second.
not Kumeyaay.
Hold on a second. Will you please give him 1 minute? And then after 1 minute, we're going to close the public hearing on this. So you can address this for 1 minute.
Thank you. First of all, the tribe you talked to and consulted with is a Lisenio band, not a Kumeyaay tribe. You cannot homogenize native peoples. We know the problems with that. Second of all, we do not have the authority. We have the tribal historic preservation officer here. Still, there are tribal protocols. We need to speak to the chairman, the vice chairman, the tribal council to talk about how to move forward. Very often, there's this idea that, just click your fingers and tell us what's done. We need to talk to the appropriate elders. We need to talk to the appropriate traditional knowledge bearers. This is a different sort of system and social system and cultural system than just tell us what needs to be done. When you say the legal mechanisms, it's just the law. The law is we sent a letter, the tribe sent a letter requesting AB 52 consultation, and the city has admitted that it was not fulfilled because an employee did not register it. The Native American Heritage Commission is the NAHC. Finally, consultants are not the city. This is a government-to-government issue, not a developer or consultant issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to close the public hearing. So, Councilmember Crayons, do you want to make any other comments at this point? Okay. Deputy Mayor Moscow.
Thank you. Thank you to the public, and thank you for all the speakers. I do have one last question, which was raised by a member of the public. I do want to just ask the city staff in terms of the definition, working definition that you're using for public need. When we're asked to kind of to approve a statement of overriding consideration, what is the definition of public need from your perspective?
One of the major public needs that was looked at for this was housing. So the public housing crisis and the project providing housing and affordable housing.
All right, well, let me just give you my thoughts on sorry, it just went off. So having sat up here for 6 years and seen some of the projects that have come throughout the city, I want to say that this is a project that I think has been really executed henceforth really well. And I think the way that you've gone about working with the community is really a model in terms of just really meeting with a number of residents over the years and trying to understand exactly what their concerns are and how you can actually add value, not only address their concerns, but add value to this area. And I think that should be a model for development throughout the community. And I think there are other developers that don't follow this type of process. And so I'm hoping that the way that you've operated so far really does act as a model for development in the future, because I think that what you've put together with the help of the community is something that is going to be embraced by the community, that it's going to really add to the overall quality of life for people, not only in Leucadia, but throughout Encinitas. And I think in my definition of public need, certainly, everybody's talked about all the amenities of this project, and I'm not going to go through all of the amenities, but, there's a lot of amenities here, including the roundabout or circle there on the 101. That's going to, I think, add probably a lot in terms of traffic flow and making sure that people are moving throughout that corridor in a better way than they're moving today, and add to the safety of the overall part of that corridor. And the affordable housing, which this was put on our housing element list because we needed more affordable housing in our city, and this really does respond to that. And so thank you for this project, because I think it really is a thoughtful project that's going to fit into the community. And in terms of the appeal, I've listened for a while here to the appeal, and I'm not necessarily seeing any additional evidence presented in terms of just the points that have been raised in the appeal, and I'm not finding any grounds for granting this appeal at all. I do find the conversation, an important conversation about the consultation with the Native American tribes to be an important one, but as has been said, it's not part of this appeal. And so, but I do think that the city needs to make sure that its processes are proper. But I think that we've heard an explanation, and it does sound reasonable to me that we have actually consulted, and that we actually had an informal consultation or informal meeting with this particular tribe. And so, for me, I don't find any reason to uphold this appeal. And I find that this is a really good project for our city. So I'm going to move the staff's recommendation, Madam Mayor, at the appropriate time.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and second your motion and just make some comments as well. So I support this project, and I think, as Mr. Jackal said at the beginning, that it's the right project in the right area. And there are a number of parts of it that I think are particularly worth highlighting and noting. One of them is that the project will build a roundabout, and we've been really trying to create more roundabouts on Highway 101, and we ended up not having one at the hotel project because of the fact that it was approved so many years ago. The project was not able to change course on that, and it ended up with a light. So having a roundabout right nearby, I think, will be really a great amenity for the city and the residents. I very much like the affordable hotel rooms, which is kind of novel. That's not something that we see very much, the requirement for affordable hotel rooms and the affordable housing. There's also, of course, just the needed housing units. I like the fact that they did 50 meetings, communicating with the community and taking feedback and modifying things. It's a lot of energy and work and commitment, and it is the model of what we want to see in this community. And it is true that we don't see it all the time. We frequently don't see that kind of outreach, and I think that is just a testament to how much care there has been put behind this, and the care that comes from the individuals who are really leading this project. I very much like the walking and biking village aspect of it, and that there will be new retail that will service this area of northern Leucadia. I like that the stormwater is going to be moved off the bluff and not be going over the bluff. I think that's also a great amenity. And I just want to recognize to the tribal concerns that were raised and we talked about a bit here. You referenced, and I think it's true, that we have had 500 years, more than 500 years of actions and inactions at all levels of government toward our indigenous communities that have really been deplorable and immoral. I think when we look at what is before us now and the contours of this particular project in this particular location at this time and what has been conditioned as part of the conditions of approval, I feel satisfied that it is that there is the authority to evaluate tribal resources and that the conditions are reasonable. And so I feel comfortable moving forward with that, and I'm glad that we talked about it in some depth, and I appreciate the explanation. So I'm happy to second the motion and to support this project, and I very much look forward to it being built. So I'll go ahead and call on my colleagues now. Councilmember Lyons.
Thank you, Mayor. I take the discussion on the tribal consultation fairly seriously. I understand that it's a government-to-government process here. I want to speak about that just briefly again because I have a question and then I have a comment. Mr. Stark, when you're talking about consultation that is being requested that we haven't done yet, could you characterize what consultation means? What is that process?
In this context, outside of the AB 52 framework, it would just be informal meeting as if we were, meeting with another government body or a stakeholder group. It takes on that weight within the CEQA process.
And that hasn't happened?
It has been initiated, I would say, because there was at least one meeting, and I understand they may have visited the site, other emails and conversations with city staff, and it is ongoing. We have been, sent all the materials we have and have requested. Please give us feedback on these materials. Is there something, what is, I think the council members or the mayor put it well, what is it, what is the ask here? What can we do? And we,
Okay.
and with it, yeah, so.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important enough that not associated with this action tonight, but associated with how we process and how we move forward with tribal consultation, that we don't want to be here again in the future. How can we do this better, and how can we conclude our informal consultation on this matter? Now, I'm not as much of an expert as other people, so I don't want to dictate. I don't want to say I know how to do this, but I do think that we started something. We should conclude an informal consultation if we started it and asked for it. But and then we should look at what happened here in regards to how can we improve our government-to-government tribal consultation in the future. Sometimes it's not as streamlined as people think it should be, and things might happen like this. But I think perhaps this is a lesson learned we can really benefit from. So that's my comment on that. I understand that that is not part of what we're addressing right now, based on how this appeal is structured. But I appreciate the time spent on that information. So my comments are that I think that it's important to talk about quality of life as far as all of our development in our city is concerned. And quality of life is different for all of us, but there is some common ground about what is quality of life and how do we preserve, protect, and enhance it in our community. And I think that this development overall is a positive contribution to the quality of life in our community. And I want to acknowledge a few things about this project and then speak about some other things that are associated. I really agree with the goals. I appreciate the goals of public outreach. I think that's exceptional, very notable. so many people responded to us and said, you listen to them. And it's not always easy to do that. So that was exceptional. I appreciate the attention to compatibility with old and new. And, it doesn't mean you have to copy what's old, but if you can really integrate the core of how the community and the surrounding context is and how it's designed, and in our case, it's very vernacular. It's very kind of, it happened because people wanted it to happen, then it's really good to find that right balance of combining old and new. Because I'm a designer, I sometimes use some terms and people say, what do you mean by that? But context sensitive is one I use a lot. And what that means is it really draws from the surrounding environment and integrates something new in a manner where visually and functionally it's as seamless as you can get. And I think that's so important to expanding on our value of our unique character here in Encinitas. So more specifically, I like the village scale and I like the attention to the pedestrian scale. The fact that the drainage does solve some problems with the stormwater, I think that's a key point that I noted right away. That's always important in our community, that we address and we manage our stormwater, and this project is helping to do that. And as far as the scenic and visual quality, I know that that's not an objective standard, and that's something that I think we struggle with a lot because we really value our scenic and our visual quality. But I like what you have done with articulating of the facades of the buildings and the materials visually, and also the openings between the buildings. It's not just a sidewalk, but you've got courtyards, and so And it goes back to the fact that you didn't max out the site, and I appreciate that also. The art is something I wanted to note in that integrating the art from the community is always a positive. And you've gone above and beyond as far as the traffic associated with the off-site improvements. So in many ways, I find that this project, although not perfect, has really raised the bar on what I would like to see come before this community for approval, and it has so many good things about it. Now, although not perfect, yes, we know La Costa has some significant challenges for the moving of cars, and we are looking at that. That hasn't gone unnoticed, so I just want to say I acknowledge La Costa as a challenge that our city will be addressing. So I appreciate this project today, and that wraps up my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Krantz.
Thank you. And I want to say thanks to the San Pasqual Band for bringing to our attention the shortcomings that we may have had in this project. I can assure you that there are not 5 people more interested in this and sensitive to the issues that you've raised here than this council. One of us is missing, but she too, I can assure you, is wanting to do what's right. So we will do better, and it doesn't need AB 52 for us to do better. I recall the Moonlight Beach concession stand project was under construction when I first came on the council, and we got scathing letters from, I'm not sure which band it was, but we had some issues with cultural resources during that project as well. So I do think that we need to do better. So I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. As has been stated here, it isn't part of this appeal, but we will be able to address these issues going forward. So I thank you again for bringing it to our attention. And, you know, the impressive emails that were sent in support of this project, you know, it's there. I can't think of any other project that's had this kind of outpouring of support. So that is because of the efforts that were made by the developer, and I appreciate that, as well as the fact that it's a good project. And that's what the testimony has mostly been about. And in Encinitas, we always have some folks that are just not going to be satisfied, and so here we are. I will say to Dolores Welty, I too have asked for a stop sign at Sheridan and La Costa Avenue, and I would like one there still, and I will continue to advocate for one there, because I do think that traffic on La Costa Avenue is unacceptable. I'm not sure what the solutions are for La Costa Avenue, but we do need to make pedestrian amenities a priority. I think one of the greatest challenges that we have with what we're doing on Highway 101 with streetscape and the improvements that we're seeing in that corridor is that we have a community that is bisected by a railroad track that desperately needs more safe and legal access. And so I can only say that I will be doing everything I can to advance projects that will make it possible for the people who live on the east side of the corridor to get to this project once it's complete. And, you know, we can't wave a magic wand, but the reality is the state has a significant obligation for the burden that they put on our city. La Costa Avenue is woefully inadequate. There's the cheapest bridge that you could ever build that goes over the railroad tracks at La Costa Avenue, a knee-high guard with barely 2 feet of space to walk. It's just ridiculous. And the thought that the city should bear the burden to address that particular shortcoming is just ridiculous. So I'm looking forward to having representation up in Sacramento that understands the shortcomings of the infrastructure that they imposed upon us with Interstate 5. So we'll keep working on that. But in the meantime, I think this project with the additional resources that it'll bring with property taxes, with TOT taxes, and with sales taxes are just what we need to be able to address the problems with La Costa Avenue. And I also think that we need to focus any and all northwest Leucadia development projects. The development impact fees need to go into improvements to the northwest corridor. So thanks to everyone who spoke tonight, and I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Mosca. I think I've motioned, but I've really seconded.
Correct.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mosca moved, and then you seconded. And I just want to clarify that it is to adopt resolution number 2022-89. It was incorrectly listed on the agenda.
That is my motion.
Oops, hold on, just messed up. Motion carried unanimously with Councilmember Hinsey absent.
Okay, so we thank you for this item. We've concluded it now, so we will move on with our agenda. Thank you to the public speakers. Yes, we're going to take a break now. So before we get to the next item, which is 10, it's actually C, I think.
10B.
10B, okay. So we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll come back at 9.
Jennifer Gates, Planning Manager. I am here sitting in for Melinda Dacey, the project planner for this item tonight. So good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is a public hearing to consider introductions to the City Council ordinance numbers 22-06 and 2022-07 to amend the Encinitas Municipal Code and the local coastal program to adjust the local appeal period timelines to be 10 calendar days. On May 5th of 2022, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to adopt resolution number PC 2022-04 with a modification to incorporate a city policy to accept applications the next business day when an application filing deadline for an appeal occurs during a weekend or a holiday. The municipal code sets forth appeal procedures within Chapter 1.12, which applies to projects within specific sections of our municipal code that authorize an appeal. The appeal procedures also prescribe a time limit in which the appeal may be filed by whomever may object to the determination that was made by the subordinate authority. The time limit specified in Chapter 1.12 was 15 calendar days. However, certain development projects within the city, for example, a subdivision map or a lot line adjustment or certificate of compliance require an appeal period of 10 calendar days. When researching further, the final determination in the municipal code was that multiple sections specify a time limit directly within their sections and not necessarily referencing Chapter 1.2 of the appeals. And these timelines were ranging from 2 days to over 20 days. So additionally, there were sections regarding the final determinations, like I stated, did not reference Chapter 1.2. And so in order to make everything consistent, as well as referencing correctly Chapter 1.12 of the appeals section of our municipal code, staff is recommending a 10-day appeal time limit. This is consistent with other coastal San Diego communities, as well as providing consistency within our own municipal code. It also, with these updates, refers the public and the applicants to the specific chapter of 1.12, which is our appeals chapter, and then also streamlines our review procedures. The draft changes are not changing any of the appeal timelines that are less than 10 calendar days or where the state law specifies a specific time frame. Additional modifications included some minor cleanup pertaining to the Director of Development Services job title, removing some references in a few sections to a star, and then modifying the coastal development permit section to remove a reference to a specific subsection that actually did not exist any longer. In addition, staff has made some non-substantive changes since the Planning Commission consideration throughout both ordinances, and this is only to replace what was seen in parentheses, see Chapter 1.2, instead now says pursuant to Chapter 1.12, and to provide a greater internal code citation accuracy. And these changes were shown in red within both ordinances. So staff is recommending City Council introduce City Council Ordinance number 22-06 and 22-07. And this concludes staff presentation.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public speakers on this?
We do not.
Okay, Councilmember Lyons.
I'll move to approve the introduction of the two recommended actions.
Okay, Councilmember, Deputy Mayor Mosca.
I just raised my hand to second that motion and say I'm happy that we're actually resolving this inconsistency and that it's now consistent. I know that it did cause some conflict, and I'm happy that we're actually making it all consistent.
Okay, thank you. A motion and a second. Councilmember Kranz.
I'm going to oppose this. I don't think we should be shortening the appeal period for anything, the 15-day appeal period. I agree with cleaning it up. I agree with pointing to a single source. I don't agree with shortening the time period because some folks can afford attorneys that can work in a 10-day period. Oftentimes we have members of the public who are attempting to address issues that they're concerned with in an appeal, and it takes the extra time. So the notion of shortening the appeal period to me is antithetical to open government and letting the public have the opportunity to be heard. So I will be opposing this. I support 15 days for the appeal, and we can have two different appeal periods for projects that have appeal periods of 10 days under state law. Our issue with that one project was that it was noticed as a 10-day appeal, and we stuck to the position that that applied to both. And I think that we should clarify this by just cleaning up the code and pointing to 10 days for things that are required under state law and everything else 15.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Can I just also comment, because I do think that I'd like to put on the record that ordinarily that I completely agree with what was just said in terms of more time for appeal. I think in practice, when state law changed and we changed specifically that which we had to put at 10, and we had some flexibility at leaving it at 15, that we created a hybrid system that in practice is confusing and that has led to conflict and caused folks to threaten litigation. And so in practice, the hybrid has not worked out, and that it's smoother for not only the public but also for the staff to have just one bright line rule, which is 10 days. And so, but I do think that the more time that we can give to the public to appeal these matters, the better off we are. But in this case, some items just have only 10 days, and so maintaining this hybrid only causes confusion.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and vote?
Motion carries with Kranz voting no and Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay, thank you. We're on to item 10C, consideration of introduction of the Conflict of Interest Code.
Yep, Mayor, that is my item, and the item before you is just amendments to the Encinitas Municipal Code regarding conflict of interest, and what we're looking at is changes to the designated positions that are required to file a conflict of interest statements, and those changes are based on items that were changed during the budget that took effect July 1st, so position titles and new positions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
And we do not on this item.
Okay, I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay, thank you. Now we are on to item 10D, which is another City Clerk Hollywood item about terms and term limits.
Yes, based on direction that was provided to us during a prior hearing, there was some confusion on Encinitas Municipal Code Section 2.30.020D, and that has to do with commissioners, sitting commissioners applying for commission vacancies. So the item before you is to clarify that language, to make it clear that sitting commissioners can apply for vacancies on other commissions. If they are so appointed, then they are immediately terminated from the commission that they are sitting on.
Okay, that's a good clarification. I'm going to move. Do we have public
We do have a
speakers?
speaker,
Okay.
and that is Scott Campbell.
I'm sure we all remember the big meeting a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. It's kind of surprising that this is so empty here. First off, this is campaign season. We only have one non-incumbent candidate here. Congratulate Pam for showing up. Okay, this term limit thing, this was actually brought up by, I believe, a member of the Arts Commission, and she mentioned this and nobody listened to her. Why is this law or this rule or code, I'm not even sure what to say, ordinance, why does this exist in the first place? There was a reason. Did we forget that reason? I don't know the reason, but I think we should remember it before we change it. What changed in the past few months to cause this, that we have to amend the ordinance? I think we know. This is a retroaction in response to an illegal and very poor decision that this council made to replace the planning commissioner and change an existing one and violate their code. Knowingly they did this. I urge the council to reject this ordinance and also to place this before the entire city if it really needs to be changed. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify what we're doing here on this item for the public's benefit, we had something that in our code that said that commission members won't be chosen from existing sitting commission members to try to prohibit people from sitting on two commissions at the same time. But there are different ways you can interpret that sentence. And so the way that it became unclear if we could choose somebody from a commission before they'd resign from that commission to move over to a new commission. So this is saying that if there's somebody who's chosen from one commission to sit on another commission, they're basically automatically going to resign and then be appointed. Because you don't want to ask a commissioner to resign when it's uncertain if they would actually be appointed. Because if there are 4 applicants, they might not make it, and then they will have resigned that position. So basically, it's not forcing them to do that. So this clarifies that all of that can happen, and somebody can move from one to the other. We've had a number of examples of people moving from a commission to another commission because their interests are more aligned or whatever other reason. They have experience on one and then they want to move to one that has more commitment, like a planning commission or something. So anyway, this is, I think, a really good thing, and I appreciate the responsiveness, and I'm happy to have motion. So I'll entertain a second.
I'll second that motion and say that the staff, since the changes that occurred years ago, the staff has interpreted it consistent with the changes, somewhat consistent with the changes that we're making right now, and that is that a commission member, somebody that we're appointing to a commission, can sit on another commission. They would just have to basically resign once they're appointed to a new commission. And so this is completely consistent with in practice what we've done. And for my 6 years in the City Council, we have found some really impressive candidates for commission participation that were sitting on other commissions, and they actually wanted to participate in another commission. So I think it's worked out well. We actually have a number of vacancies on our commissions now. And so we're always looking for volunteers, members of our community to volunteer on these commissions. So it's not a situation where we don't have enough vacancies, enough spots for people to serve. And so I think that this is actually very reasonable, and it's consistent with practice. So I'm going to second it.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Councilmember Hensy absent.
Okay, thank you. And item 10E has been pulled, so we won't be discussing that item. And then that's it for the agenda.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll go to council member reports pursuant to AB 1234. Councilmember Cranston, would you like to start?
I had a nice summer break. Nothing happened with any other outside agencies, so.
Okay.
I have nothing to report.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay. We do have the El Portal press conference, which Sandag and the city are doing together, and it's at El Portal on Sunday. And I think the time is 9? 10. It's at 10. So we invite all members of the public to attend. This is a really important project. It's a ribbon cutting, yes, and our Assembly member Tasha Berner-Horvath will be there, as well as a former principal at the school who will be speaking in Spanish, which is great to communicate, and a number of other speakers as well. I don't know if you want to say who they are, or if you know, but.
We will have representatives from NCTD. We'll also have the current principal, Wesley Seacrest, and also we will be highlighting Streetscape Phase 1.
Okay, yeah, so this is a really exciting thing, I think. Do we have any city manager report?
None.
City attorney report?
Very briefly, I just wanted to let everyone know that the city attorney's impartial analysis of the cannabis business tax measure has now been posted to the website.
Okay. So would you like to make any comments about the timeline for cannabis that we receive questions about? When will certain things happen, like the lottery and that?
Certainly. My understanding is that staff's estimate right now is that the tiering announcements will likely go out next week, and then the lottery itself will likely take place in September.
Okay, thank you.
And on cannabis, I think it's worth noting that the San Diego County Taxpayers Association, who very definitely scrutinizes all sales tax measures, has decided to support our cannabis tax measure. So that's an important endorsement of the measure.
That is important. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Does that mean that we should have gone higher?
The city
They
cl-
did have questions about why we were doing 4 to 7 and that sort of thing. So,
City Clerk, and would you please announce the vacancies that we have on our
I was
commissions?
just going to do that. We do have several. We have a vacancy on the Commission for the Arts. We have a vacancy on the Senior Commission, and then we do have a vacancy on the Mobility and Traffic Safety Commission for the Leucadia representative position. All those applications are due on August 18th. Those applications are available online. You can either go to the Boards and Commissions page or to the news page, and the link is there for the application. And then also, we are in the midst of candidate filing for the position of Mayor, Councilmember District 3, and Councilmember District 4. The timeline does close this Friday, August 12th. However, there is a caveat that for those positions where an incumbent does not file, the filing deadline does extend to August 17th. So once that officially happens on Friday at 5, then for those positions where the incumbent did not file, I will post that those nomination periods have extended. All that information is on the municipal election page. You can go to that page, and it also will list who has pulled papers, who has returned papers, and who has a qualified candidate.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Kranz, I think, is going to end the meeting in honor of some folks.
yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The city of Encinitas has lost some longtime residents, and I thought it was appropriate to acknowledge them as part of our adjournment tonight. The first two I would mention are matriarchs of some longtime families here. They are from the generation that was better known by their husbands' names. Mrs. Art Anderson and Mrs. Charles Lindsay. That's Heather Lindsay and Barbara Anderson. They both passed away. Their families miss them dearly. Lloyd Crutchfield recently passed away. He's a longtime Encinitas resident, and his family ran Crutchfield Concessions. And when the folks from the fair came, I mentioned that, and it was kind of funny because there were people that were watching on Zoom that also had worked for Crutchfield's Concessions. And I do think that about half this city worked for Crutchfield Concessions over the years. Lloyd came from Texas. He started as a bus driver in San Diego School District, and then worked his way to owning several trailers, food trailers, and was on the Midway at Del Mar Fairgrounds, traveled to Costa Mesa, Sacramento, the Pomona Fair, and really was kind of a leader in that industry, made some pretty good food. He also ran the beer garden down there at Del Mar Fairs, which was obviously quite popular. Montezuma's Revenge was a band that he had playing every night, and it was a good time. Some summers and the fair were great fun. Another unfortunate passing was Ken Harrison, a longtime resident of Cardiff by the Sea. He died of prostate cancer. Ken and I have one thing in common. We both applied to be appointed to fill the seat of Maggie Houlihan when she had passed away. Ken ran the comedy driving school and was a stand-up comic, and he wrote for The Reader. He was a graduate of San Diego High School in the class of 73, I believe, and he was very actively involved in the San Diego Academy Alumni Foundation. So we will miss Ken. And then perhaps the most difficult one for me is that longtime businessman here in Encinitas and resident Charlie Sugias passed away. And I have some photographs that I wanted to share. This is Charlie and his wife Shelley and I. He had generously allowed the San Diego Mustang Open reunion to take place on his property down at the corner of F Street and 101, which is now Charlie's Electric Bikes. He was a very generous man, and I will read his obituary as we go through some other pictures here. Kyriakos Charlie Sugius, 65, of Cardiff by the Sea, California, passed away unexpectedly on July 20, 2022 from a cerebral hemorrhage and had an arteriovenous malformation unbeknownst to him. Born in Thessaloniki, Greece, to Maria and Nicholas Sugius, at the age of 10 in 1967, his mother, Charlie, and sister in tow, immigrated to Los Angeles speaking no English. He quickly learned the tricks of the trade and scraped by as best he could. He moved to Leucadia, California in 1969, and there planted his roots in the Encinitas community. Charlie graduated from San Diego High School in 1975, undoubtedly by fixing his teacher's cars. His love of cars began at a young age. In 1978, he opened his first automotive repair shop, Charlie's Foreign Car, in downtown Encinitas. Dreams of expanding his business alongside his wife, Shelley Sugius, became a reality in 1988, where the shop is located today. Charlie retired in 2016, but never far from the community. He could always be seen riding his bike along Highway 101, enjoying a cup of coffee at a local coffee shop, having a beer, visiting with his friends, and always picking fruit from his garden. His love for travel, always on a quest to find the best dessert or gelato around. Words he lived by: life's uncertain, eat dessert first. Dad, we hope you've finally found it. Charlie is survived by his wife, Shelley, of 43 years, his son, Nico Sugius, his daughter, Julia Solares, his sister, and his 3 grandchildren that he adored even more than ice cream. And this is Charlie in front of his first shop in the early 80s. I took this picture as in trade for some mechanic work. I did some portraiture for him. So I was always bartering with him, and he was a great businessman and always got his fair share for the work that he did on my cars. And he was always at Thursday night car nights at his lot. I last saw him the week before he passed away, and we had some great laughs together. We talked about how well his son was doing in taking over the business, and I think the downtown business community lost a true leader, and I appreciate everything that he did. So with that.
Wait, let me just make a few comments.
Okay.
So I appreciate you highlighting him. This was truly a shocking and devastating death. Charlie is extremely well known as one of the stalwarts of our downtown business community, and he's actually our direct neighbor and multi-generational neighbor. So his mom was a peer of my grandma, and my mom and he were close friends and shared their love of the fruit trees and the bees, and would always talk about various things related to the garden and the boundaries and the. He maintained a portion of the yard that was actually our family's, and so we call it the bonus garden because it was transferred back to us. But we basically took over paying the water on that side, but he had done all the planting and everything. So it's really a great sadness to have him die so suddenly. And Tony and I both went to the memorial that was downtown along with hundreds of people. It was a huge event, which was fitting for him. And I know his family is, dealing with the reality of not having him around, and it's just quite a sadness. So I want to recognize, him and you for bringing these great photos of the past forward. Thank you for doing that.
And I will point out that in his retirement, he, his son bought the e-bike or opened the e-bike shop, and he became quite a fan of bicycling and really enjoyed the trip south on Highway 101 and told us to buck up because he really enjoys it and thinks it's important that we build more facilities like that.
Yeah, and his son, Nico Sugius, still runs the bike shop and basically owns it and is running it. And luckily that I don't foresee that changing. Who knows, but it's.
No, he had bought it from his dad,
Yeah.
and Nico is a great businessman himself, very active in the Rotary, has past Rotary president. That was something that Charlie had never done because I don't think he had the same personality that Nico has. He was a little more direct than Nico is, so I think Nico is going to be there a long time, and I wish them all luck and share my condolences with the family and Shelley especially.
Yeah, his wife, Shelley.
Thank you, Tony, for your kind words for everyone.
Okay, so go ahead. You can end it now. Oh, okay. Well, we'll symbolically do it together. We are adjourned in their honor.